Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. American Comics. The Strongest Master, Killing Through the Multi-Universe. Chapter 51. Not long after, Gwen came back. I was a little surprised to see that only Su Chen was left in the seat. Is Natalie gone already? Let's go. What? Do you like her staying here? Su Chen took a sip of coffee and looked at Gwen with a smile. I just think you are a very good friend. However, I still prefer to be alone with you. Gwen felt Su Chen's eyes and immediately waved her hand to explain. At the end, the voice gradually became quieter. Oh, really? Feeling Gwen's shy look, Su Chen raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Me. Being stared at by Su Chen like this, Gwen suddenly felt at a loss. Jingle bell. Just when Gwen didn't know how to respond to Su Chen, she heard a phone ringing. Then, I saw Su Chen taking out a push-button cell phone. What's wrong, boss? The shares have been acquired. A total of 24 billion has been spent, and there is still more than 1.5 billion left. The caller was none other than Norman Osborn. Su Chen was a little surprised. Surprisingly, it took the other party less than an hour to acquire the shares. It seems that the situation of Osborn Industries has made these shareholders want to sell. Okay, let's keep the 1.5 billion as the company's working capital. Medical pharmacy projects should be implemented as soon as possible, and other projects should be temporarily suspended. Quote, Osborn Industrial's previous projects basically cost money but had no return. Therefore, instead of wasting time, it is better to implement the medical pharmaceutical project quickly. Although, I once again return to before liberation. But, you will be able to make a lot of money soon. As for Natasha Romanoff's statement that her acquisition of Osborn Industries might have offended Kingpin, she didn't care at all. If you dare to provoke yourself, then go to the real hell and become his underground emperor. Okay boss, I'll do it right away. Osborn was clearly in high spirits. Following a boss like Su Chen is really the right decision. After hanging up the phone, Gwen spoke in surprise. You acquired Osborn Industries. That's right. Where did you get that money? Aren't you the owner of a poisonous pet shop? Tony Stark was previously declared dead due to poisoning. You must have seen the news that he is still alive and kicking, right? Quote. You mean, you saved Tony Stark and he gave you money? Gwen knows about Su Chen's amazing ability. The purebred vampire who was about to be killed by him at random before recovered as before. It's probably like this. Su Chen didn't say that he can now receive 3 billion in dividends from Stark Industries every year. The two chatted for a while, and Gwen didn't feel disappointed at all. Instead, she felt extremely happy because she was with Su Chen. Su Chen paid the money and the two walked out of the coffee shop. Do you want me to take you back to your store? Don't want. Su Chen firmly rejected Gwen's proposal. He still vividly remembers the recent social death. In the future, he will definitely get a GU insect that can fly. I will definitely take revenge for this humiliation. When the time comes, let Gwen experience an air shock. Phew, why am I thinking unhealthy again? Seeing Su Chen's refusal, Gwen also knew that she had been a little too anxious just now. I had no choice but to apologize. I'm sorry, Su Chen. I was in a bad mood just now. I was a little too anxious and didn't take your feelings into consideration. Fine, you will pay it back later. Su Chen cursed in his heart, waved his hands with Gwen, and jumped away quickly. Although he can't swing back and forth in the air like Gwen now. But with his strong physical ability, he could easily climb to the top of the building and jump over the next roof 20 or 30 meters away without any problem. This can be regarded as flying over the walls in martial arts novels. It's just that it hasn't reached the level of flight in fantasy novels. Osborn Industrial Interior. Inside Kurt Connor's research room. There are many crawling creatures in it. What lizards, mice, spiders, toads, etc. Peter, prepare for 308 tests. Kurt Connors was wearing a white coat and said to Peter Parker beside him. However, there was no answer. Looking over a little strangely, I found Peter, who was also wearing a white coat, actually in a daze. Suddenly, he roared, Peter, what are you thinking about? He actually quit his job at work. Could it be that this guy has also lost confidence in this project? Peter Parker was immediately awakened by the roar, and after reacting, he apologized hastily. I'm sorry, doctor, I'm so sorry. What's wrong with you these days? This doesn't happen once or twice. Is it possible that you, like those capitalists, are ready to give up on our biological serum project? Quote. Curt Connors looked a little unhappy. The reason why he asked Peter Parker to be his assistant was because he had worked with his father for a while. It was also because of Peter Parker's original genius brain that he made an exception and allowed a high school student to be his assistant. Who knows, these days Peter Parker is always in a trance, as if he is entangled by something. Peter Parker saw that the other party was so excited and knew that he seemed to have offended the doctor. He hurriedly shook his head and explained. No, doctor, it's just that I was bitten by a spider a few days ago. Then I always dreamed that I turned into a big spider, it was very real. Quote. Hearing this explanation, Curt Connors' originally angry face also paused. He knew that the industrial situation in Osborn was getting worse and worse these days and was even about to go bankrupt. He and Peter had to hurry up and complete their projects, and basically only had 2 or 3 hours of rest every day. As long as the project is initially successful, Osborn Industries will not go bankrupt. Nor will he be without financial support. Looking at his empty right arm, Curt Connors felt a little sour in his heart. Without financial support and scientific research equipment, we don't know when the serum will be completed. By then, he will never recover his right arm even if he dies of old age. You have really worked hard these days. Believe me, we are very sure of success this time, and all our efforts will pay off. Curt Connors obviously felt that such a high-intensity work made Peter a little too stressed, which is why he acted like this. Seeing the other person like this, Peter wanted to explain that what he said was true. However, Connors had already cut off one of the legs of the experimental rat and brought it to him. Injection. Peter shook his head to regain his composure. Opening the special freezer on the side, a burst of cold air came out. There are 3 green serums placed inside. Peter Parker took out one of them, and then used a syringe to suck out the serum inside. Aimed at the neck of the mouse, it was injected. After the injection was completed, Curt Connors hurriedly put the mouse into the cage. The two looked carefully at each other's broken leg. I saw the body of the white mouse suddenly twitching twice, and a magical scene happened. I saw that the broken leg started to grow new legs at a speed visible to the naked eye. It worked, Peter, we finally made it. Curt Connors shouted with excitement. Peter Parker was equally excited. After working hard for so long, I finally succeeded. He knew that Osborn Industries was going bankrupt and had begun to divest from many projects. It is estimated that their project will be available soon. Unexpectedly, at this last moment, the biological serum succeeded. This is really great. He is not only happy that this project is successful, but also that he will receive a high honor. Also happy for Dr. Connors. In this case, the opponent's right arm can be restored. Such an outstanding person should have a perfect body. This will also make more contributions to the scientific community. If this project is successful, Osborn Industries will not collapse, but will allow the company to surpass its previous scale with this project. Broken limb reborn. This kind of technology will definitely subvert the scientific world. Finally, the entire leg of the white mouse grew back, and it was jumping around without any abnormality. Ha ha ha, God is wise, I finally succeeded, ha 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 ha. Curt Connors was crying and laughing like a psychopath at the moment. However, his excitement did not last long. I saw the little white mouse that had grown legs again and was jumping around suddenly turned over. As soon as I kicked my legs, there was no movement. At the moment, Curt Connors was crying and laughing like a madman. Peter Parker's heart skipped a beat when he saw this scene. Glancing at Curt Connors, who was still immersed in joy and unable to extricate himself. His voice was trembling and he said, Doctor, look, it seems to be dead. How can it be? As soon as these words came out, Curt Connors was pulled out of his crazy joy. His head almost stuck into the cage. Sure enough, the little white mouse was already lying motionless inside. No 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 no, Curt Connors didn't believe it at all, so he opened the cage and took out the white rat. You, wake up quickly. There is no anesthetic in it. Wake up quickly. Finally, the veins on his forehead popped out, and he almost yelled. Seeing him like this, Peter Parker was startled, but he still trembled and said, Doctor, It's dead. We failed again. At the end of the sentence, Peter lowered his head. Another empty joy. He didn't know how many times he had experienced this situation. He was already a little numb. No, 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 Peter, you see he has obviously grown new legs. We didn't fail, we succeeded. It must be that it cannot receive such a large dose of medicine, it must be. Quote. Kurt Connor's eyes were red, constantly denying his failure. Peter Parker was very uncomfortable, and he could understand the doctor's mood. There are too many cases like this, and Dr. Connors really needs to succeed for once. Otherwise, the spirit is really about to collapse. But he still sighed helplessly and said, Doctor, we still have a chance. We are not far from success. No, 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 why do you have to do this to me? Connors threw away the white mouse, as if he had been greatly wronged, and cried loudly. Jingle bell. Just when Peter Parker was thinking about how to comfort Kurt Connors, the phone suddenly rang in the laboratory. Doctor, there's a call. Peter Parker knew that only one person could call this phone. That was the man who provided them with all these experimental conditions, Norman Osborn. Kurt Connors suppressed his sadness, ran to the phone, and hurriedly answered it. Mr. Osborn, we are about to succeed, you believe me? What? No, 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 please, we are going to succeed soon, don't give up on this project. No, 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 I just want to develop this project, I don't know anything about medical medicine. Please, just give me some more time. Quote. Although Peter Parker didn't hear the voice on the phone, he knew it when he saw Kurt Connors's face. Norman Osborn has decided to abandon their project. In other words, they can no longer study it. Unless there are new sponsors. However, there are several bosses willing to invest in such a project. That is, Norman Osborn suddenly focused on biological genetic science, and this gave them the opportunity. Now, there are no supporters at all. Kurt Connors hung up the phone in despair, his steps becoming a little shaky. Doctor, are you okay? Peter Parker asked worriedly. Peter, the project has been abandoned, they have withdrawn funding. Norman Osborn says Osborn Industries has been acquired by new owners. He wants to abandon all previous projects and develop a project called Medical Potions. We have absolutely no chance. Quote. Listening to Kurt Connors's narration, Peter Parker's last hope was extinguished. The saddest one, however, was obviously Dr. Connors. During this period, he was hit hard. Anyone else would be intolerable. He was just an assistant, and although the project didn't succeed, he was still young and had a great chance. But Kurt Connors is different. He spent countless years of hard work on this project. Now not only has it failed, but it has also lost financial support. This project has basically no chance. Doctor, go back to school, you have worked hard these days. Norman Osborn promised us a salary, and when the time came, your aunt won't have to work so hard. Quote. Kurt Connors at the moment was like a sports car that had lost its engine, completely sluggish. Doctor, let's go, let me be alone. Kurt Connors looked at Peter Parker with red eyes, almost pleading. Seeing the other person like this, Peter's heart ached. Finally, he had no choice but to nod and said, Okay, Dr. Connors, I'll go back first and see you when I have time. It's obviously impossible to come here to see Connors. I'm afraid I'll have to go to Connors' home in the future. As soon as I walked out of the laboratory door, I felt dizzy. When he opened the clothes on his arms, he saw that his arms were covered with black hair. Such hair is very similar to that of a certain kind of spider. Here we go again. Peter Parker began to look panicked and fled from here quickly. He knew that something strange had happened to him after he was bitten by the spider he brought home. Looking at the empty laboratory, Connors sat slumped for a long time before getting up and starting to pack his things. Crunch. At this moment, there suddenly came the sound of two gnawing things. Kurt Connors looked at the source of the sound in confusion, and then saw the obviously dead mouse. He actually came back to life again, but something seemed wrong. From where his new legs originally grew, a lot of lizard-like green skin appeared. However, Kurt Connors had no time to care about this. This discovery gave him the joy of regaining something. My serum must have done the trick. Looking at the 2 tubes of serum in the freezer, without thinking much, he picked up the syringe and injected it into his arm. When Su Chen returned to the store, she collapsed on the sofa. Today's social death feels so uncomfortable. It seems that he not only has to consider improving speed, dodge, attack and other types of GU insects. Flight-type GU insects are also necessary. After all, even Tony Stark can fly. As a powerful GU master, I must get one. Gulu. After eating dozens of steaks at Norman Osborn's house, I was actually hungry again. Now his consumption is really increasing. Although fairy beans can provide energy for a long time, they will also make you feel full. But how can there be such delicious food in the world? Pick up the phone and start ordering. Although she lives in America, Su Chen still likes the delicious food of Eastern China. It seems necessary to find a chef from Eastern China. That way, you don't have to always call to order. Soon, more than a dozen delicacies from Eastern China were placed on the table. Su Chen drooled and started to become violent. Because this is the United States, the hotels in Oriental China have also made taste changes to cater to these guys. Therefore, Su Chen specifically asked the hotel to make it to suit the taste of Oriental people. It still tastes the same, beautiful. Suddenly, Su Chen stopped for a moment, but quickly returned to a state of feasting. A familiar voice came, "Hi boss, long time no see." Su Chen turned around with a smile and saw a young man with long black hair standing at the door. The girl's figure is also very slender, and her appearance is different from Gwen's. There is also a colorful scorpion lying on the arm. "Why, you want to buy a poisonous pet again, Jessica?" The person coming was none other than Jessica Jones. However, judging from the appearance of the other party, it is obvious that he has not awakened super ability like Gwen. The treasure girl has not yet appeared. Hee, definitely not. If I buy other little ones, my Xiaosai will be unhappy. Jessica sat generously on another table of the dining table, looking at the dishes on the table covered with little stars. Seeing the other person swallowing his saliva, Su Chen said speechlessly, "Eat it if you want, and then just pay me back 10 meals. Hey, you are really dark." Ever since Su Chen saved her and Gwen that time, and then after Su Chen left the police station and fought with Gwen to let Su Chen watch the game, Jessica no longer regards Su Chen as an outsider. Definitely, she didn't know if she had other ideas. At the moment, looking at Su Chen's expression of love, Jessica gritted her teeth and said, "Okay, 3 meals at most. Although I do some detective work part-time, business is not easy these days." Su Chen shook his head, stretched out a palm and said, 5 meals. "Humph, you are cruel." Jessica angrily picked up an elbow and chewed it. The poisonous scorpion named Xiaosai on her arm crawled towards Su Chen. However, it stopped about 10 centimeters away from Su Chen. It actually started to wag its tail. It seemed that it was also happy to see its original owner again. Looking at the other party's appearance, Su Chen casually threw out some minced meat, and the latter immediately swallowed it happily. Su Chen looked at the scorpion, then at Jessica who didn't care about her image at all, and asked, "What do you want to see me for this time? I just miss you, come and see you." When saying this, Jessica glanced at the poisonous pets in the store. Su Chen is speechless. "You obviously want to see these strange creatures." Okay, I really wanted to come and see these little guys, but I've been really bored lately, so I came to see you." Jessica felt that Su Chen had seen through, so she had no choice but to explain her purpose. Boring. Su Chen was a little surprised when he heard the other party say this. Although Jessica was only a high school student, the other party was no ordinary student. According to her previous words, she not only lived in Hell's Kitchen, but also opened a private detective agency. It can be said that he is very bold and dared to do it. Even if you don't have many friends, there will be a lot of business in Hell's Kitchen, so you won't be bored. Jessica saw Su Chen's thoughts and said, "Yeah, I don't know what Gwen is doing recently. He has very little contact with me, except talking to me at school and going home immediately after school. It's like saying one more word to me will delay her important event." Quote. That's it. Su Chen took a sip of juice and felt a little clearer. Now that Gwen is Ghost Spider-Man, she can fight more crimes. He had forgotten that he had already neglected his good friend. Maybe she's saving the world. Hearing Su Chen's joke, Jessica, who was eating her elbow, looked at Su Chen speechlessly. This joke is not funny at all. Naturally, Jessica would not associate the always gentle Gwen with the resolute ghost Spider-Man. Su Chen didn't explain much, since she would know it in the future anyway. I just don't know when Jessica will gain super ability. In the original book, Jessica gained super abilities after being exposed to chemical radiation in an accident. However, the fate of Jessica in this world is different from the original one. It turns out that Jessica gained super abilities due to accidental exposure to chemical radiation. Then she was adopted by another family and renamed Jessica Jones. But the Jessica here seems to have been called Jessica Jones since the last time we met. Moreover, Jessica does not have super ability. Not to mention meeting that purple man. Su Chen, can I come to your place more often in the future? Suddenly, Jessica looked at Su Chen seriously and asked. Su Chen was stunned, looked at the other party, nodded slightly, and said, "Okay, as long as you be careful about the criminals here, you are also responsible for cleaning the store for me." No problem. Upon hearing this, Jessica agreed without any hesitation. It seemed that he didn't hear the word criminal, but even the speed of cooking was accelerated a lot. The corner of Su Chen's mouth was slightly raised. This girl was actually strong on the outside but very lonely on the inside. Coming to the world of American comics, he has very few friends, so having one more is not a bad thing. However, he and she did not notice at all that there was a hint of cunning in Jessica's beautiful eyes. The two ended up in a storm. Jessica was obviously very full, while Su Chen was still full of food. "Aren't you full?" Seeing Su Chen's appearance, Jessica asked in surprise. "After eating so much, I'm still not full. This guy is so good at eating." Thinking that Su Chen had such an appetite in the past, and his body was so strong without any fat. The meal she had just eaten was enough for her to go back and work out for an extra half hour in the evening. The physique of the other party is really enviable. I can't help it, I was born to eat it. How about going out to eat some more? Okay. Su Chen didn't like the feeling of not being full. When Su Chen said this, "Okay, I know a restaurant with great steaks." So, Su Chen locked the door of the store, and with Jessica's stunned eyes, he held the other party under his arm and headed towards the store. "Su Chen, you guy." Outside a high-end restaurant, Su Chen dropped Jessica off. At the moment, Jessica was in a state of embarrassment. The long, silky hair was messy by the wind. She knew that Su Chen seemed to have some extraordinary power, but she didn't expect it to be so strong. She had just experienced a real and passive experience of flying over a wall. "Su Chen, when will we do it again?" Jessica, who looked slightly embarrassed, looked at Su Chen with eyes full of stars at the moment. This is not the right reaction. Shouldn't she be angry and scold herself loudly? Why are you so happy? For a moment, Su Chen felt as if he had punched a marshmallow. Originally, I wanted to let Jessica stay still and experience the feeling of flying over the wall, so as to relieve myself of the aggrieved feeling caused by Gwen. But who knows, this girl seems to be born with a restless factor. Not only did it not rise at all, but it was so exciting. 10 steaks medium rare. How can you eat so well? Jessica was stunned for a moment, and then looked at Su Chen expectantly. Then after you finish eating, let me experience it again. Su Chen didn't want to pay attention to him, opened the door and walked into the restaurant. Why are you so stingy? Jessica followed behind him into the restaurant. The two specially chose a private room. After all, Su Chen wanted to eat 10 steaks. There is definitely no room for the table outside. What they didn't notice, though, from the moment Jessica entered the restaurant, a pale man in a purple suit in the corner had been staring at her. Knowing that Jessica and Su Chen entered the private room, they both stared at them for a long time. The man looked away with an evil smile on his face. Soon, all 10 steaks were served. Jessica couldn't eat anything at all because of the sauced elbow just now. Just looked at Su Chen. But Su Chen was still eating steak like a hungry wolf. Jessica's scorpion looked on eagerly. Su Chen ignored it this time, feeling unhappy that she wasn't full. After breaking through to the high-level GU master, his appetite increased several times. Now, he has reached the perfection of high-level GU master, and is only one step away from breaking through to the realm of Gu King. At this time, naturally you can't suffer yourself. We must lay a solid foundation for breaking through to the next level. Su Chen, is it possible that your power is really the legendary super ability? Jessica still asked the question she had wanted to ask for a long time. Roughly the same. Su Chen didn't deny it, but he didn't give a clear answer either. I also seem to have gained super ability. Then I can be like you, able to fly over walls and fly over walls. Oh, Su Chen ignored Jessica, who looked yearning. Maybe, you will have one soon. At this time, Jessica, who had a longing look on her face, suddenly paused. Then, like a puppet, he said to Su Chen, I'm going to the bathroom. Su Chen glanced at the other party slightly, but continued to eat the steak by himself. Jessica walked out of the private room door and walked towards the Vincent room. However, as if she was being controlled by someone, she actually entered the men's room. In the corner, a pale man in purple clothes showed a sinister and smug smile on his lips. Followed Jessica and walked in. HMPH. Su Chen, who was in the private room, snorted coldly. He had just noticed that this guy in the corner had been staring at Jessica, but he just ignored him. This guy should be the purple man. I didn't expect Jessica to meet this guy after all. But, if you do it in front of yourself, you don't take yourself too seriously. In the men's room, Jessica looked at the man in purple who appeared in front of her with a very struggling expression. Jehieji, come here, my little baby, I will love you very much, and I will let you experience what it feels like to be in heaven. The man in purple looked at the beautiful young girl with a ferocious smile and began to unbuckle his belt. At the moment, Jessica was conscious, but her body was uncontrollably moving closer to the other person. Jehieji, you are mine, little baby. Seeing Jessica getting closer and closer, Ziren was so happy. I have already taken off my pants and am ready to take off my shirt. He had done this to the girl's harm countless times. Moreover, he can use his unique ability to see if a girl is still intact. In an open country like America, there are very few girls who can remain intact when they reach adulthood. Jessica is obviously one of those few. He must enjoy such a girl. Jessica watched her body getting closer and closer to the man uncontrollably, but there was nothing she could do about it. Cece, Xiaosai, who was crawling on Jessica's arm, seemed a little anxious and began to tighten her body, hoping to wake up her master. But it had no effect at all. Finally, Xiaosai hooked directly towards Jessica's arm. The pain made Jessica suddenly feel that she had regained some power to control her body. Under the purple man's super ability, her body stopped with difficulty. What happened? You were able to overcome my power. Ziren, who was taking off his shirt, was suddenly startled, his face full of disbelief. Hey, didn't you go too far by kidnapping my friend in front of me? Just as he was about to increase his control over Jessica's will again, he heard a young boy. Turning around, he saw Su Chen looking at him with cold eyes. I advise you to be obedient and let me play with this girl once, otherwise, I will make you unable to survive or die. Ziren obviously didn't like being disturbed midway, and he had decided to give the guy in front of him the most painful torture. Oh, then I'd really like to experience it. Su Chen looked at the other party with a playful expression. Jehieji, okay, as you wish. Ziren looked at Su Chen with a weird smile, as if his conspiracy had succeeded. At this time, Su Chen felt as if his body was out of control like Ziren's. It's like some toxin has invaded the body. Come on, take this knife and cut off the flesh on your body bit by bit. Feeling that Su Chen was controlled by his ability, Ziren took out a knife with a grin and handed it to Su Chen. He wanted to watch Su Chen kill himself. If you dare to disturb his good deeds, you are simply seeking death. Then, Su Chen actually killed the opponent's knife like this. Seeing this scene, Jessica, who was still unable to resume action, was extremely anxious. She knew that she had implicated Su Chen, and her heart was filled with despair. Seeing Su Chen take Ziren's knife and slowly stabbing her, Jessica's body was shaking anxiously. At the same time, Xiao Kai's venom flowed throughout the body along the blood vessels. The body that was originally out of control slowly recovered. At the same time, she felt a special power emerging from her body. Su Chen seemed to have taken Ziren's short knife uncontrollably and stabbed it towards his chest. Jia, guy, I asked you to hinder me, I asked you, ah. Ziren watched Su Chen stabbing his body, constantly laughing out loud. However, he stopped mid-sentence, because he saw Su Chen stabbing the knife into his heart with a mocking look on his face. You, how could you? How can I crack your dirty tricks? Seeing Ziren spitting blood out of his mouth with disbelief on his face, Su Chen turned his hand. The short knife completely shattered the opponent's heart. Ziren was so painful that he almost fainted. Only now did he realize that he seemed to have offended the wrong person. The other party obviously also has extraordinary power, and it is far beyond his imagination. Just with your super ability, you can harm ordinary people, but no one with a strong will fall into your trap. Although Su Chen has never met Ziren, he knows Ziren's ability. His body emits a volatile chemical, and when the target's skin absorbs these hormones, it can be controlled through words, similar to poison hypnotic ability. This ability allows him to control several or more people at a time, but he needs to be close to the target to control. When the purple person leaves the target will gradually regain self-awareness. People with strong willpower and different physiological functions can resist the control of the purple man. As a GU master, Su Chen's body has long been different from ordinary people, and he broke away from his control without even using the medical GU. Definitely, he also has strong self-healing ability, and he can quickly recover from normal physical damage. Unless you do this to Su Chen and stab his heart directly. Su Chen pulled out the short knife and threw it aside in disgust. Ziren's body was crumbling and he was about to lose his life completely. Despair and fear filled his mind. At this moment, he finally understood why the people he tortured and killed were in such pain before their death. Ah! At this moment, a scream came from the side. At some point, Jessica fully resumed her actions and looked at the dying purple man. Punch out violently. Puff! The fist contained huge amounts of power, and it actually punched the purple man's chest bloody. Ziren, when he completely lost his life, showed an even more horrified expression. In the next life, I will never dare to do evil again. Holding this trace of regret, he completely lost his life. Jessica retracted her fist with an angry look on her face and looked at the blood on her fist. And the purple man lying on the ground with a big hole in his chest. Only then did he come back to his senses, and regardless of whether he was still in the men's room, he started vomiting into the urinal. Okay, we have to leave quickly, otherwise we will become murderers. Su Chen didn't care whether it was dirty or not, picked up Jessica who was still vomiting, and rushed out of the restaurant as fast as possible. Not long after, the waiter screamed from the toilet. After a while, many police officers came in. They were surprised when they saw that the dead person was the purple man. Because this person is the perverted QJ serial murderer they have been tracking for a long time. After understanding the situation, the dark-skinned director made a casual conclusion. It should be that some righteous person couldn't stand it anymore and killed this extremely vicious criminal. No one noticed Su Chen and Jessica who had left long ago. In Hell's Kitchen, one person's death won't cause any trouble. Because there are too many such situations. What's more, the person who died was a criminal, and they wanted such a person to die. In this way, Ziren's body was carried away casually. Only the owner and service staff in the restaurant did not recover from the shock. In a quieter alley, Jessica almost vomited her stomach out before she stopped. Su Chen was watching from the sidelines, and this was indeed a bit difficult for her. Just awakening super ability means killing someone with your own hands. It would be unbearable for anyone, let alone a girl. Ooh, I just killed someone, Jessica quickly threw herself into Su Chen's arms and cried loudly. It was only then that she returned to her original girlish appearance. Su Chen didn't care that there was still vomit on her body and kept patting her shoulders to comfort her. After a long time, Jessica finally recovered. Looking at Su Chen with tears in his eyes, he said with some disbelief, I really want to have extraordinary power. Okay, I know. Su Chen nodded calmly. I really think I was stung by Xiaosai, and then I woke up. Jessica looked at Xiaosai who had climbed onto Su Chen's body at some point and felt unreal. Tell me, what super ability did you awaken? Su Chen was a little curious about whether the other party's super ability was the powerful treasure girl in the comics, or the weakened film and television version. It was with some reluctance to leave Su Chen's warm embrace. Jessica felt her body, and slowly floated up under Su Chen's surprised eyes. I seem to be able to fly, and I am very strong, and can withstand very high attacks, and my speed seems to be very fast. As she spoke, Jessica slammed into the wall of an alley. The speed was so fast that even Su Chen could barely see it. Then, there was a boom. A big hole was knocked out of the alley wall. Looking at Jessica Jones floating in the air about 1 meter above the ground, Su Chen knew that this treasure girl was probably the one in the comics. Otherwise, it won't fly. Moreover, it was just awakening, and it actually had such a powerful power. Su Chen was a little surprised that Jessica actually awakened super ability under the stimulation of Purple Man. No, it doesn't seem to be entirely because of the stimulation from the Purple Man. Glancing at Xiaosai, who had climbed onto his shoulder at some point, Su Chen fell into deep thought. Is it possible that his poisonous pets can also help activate super abilities? I heard Gwen say before that the reason why her ability is different from the original Ghost Spider-Man is because her spider takes the initiative to protect her master. Then, not only can you release Cobweb by yourself, but your potential also becomes stronger. It can even release venom, gas and other attacks. Now, Jessica can barely fly just after awakening. The strength, endurance, and speed are still so strong. It's probably because of the scorpion. Thinking of this, Su Chen couldn't help but feel eager to give it a try. If this is really the case, if you go back and let those poisonous pets bite you, will you also gain super ability? Don't be afraid even if you don't succeed, there is a medical GU. Finally, Jessica floated in front of Su Chen and fell down because she was a little unskilled in awakening super ability just now. Su Chen quickly hugged each other. Feeling the warm embrace entering again, Jessica blushed. At this moment, the discomfort of just killing someone gradually disappeared. But soon, Su Chen let her go. Okay, let's go back. What happened today is not a big deal, there will be more dangerous things in the future. Jessica's heart is much stronger than Gwen's. Su Chen believes that the other party should be able to adapt to this quickly. Also, there will be alien invasions in the future. If you can't bear this, then just wait to be killed by Chidori. Jessica nodded, and then spoke hesitantly. Can I go live with you? As night falls, Su Chen has already washed away the blood and dirt on her body. Sitting on the sofa in the store, I looked at a cockroach with a strange color on my hand. Not knowing that the other party could understand, he ordered, "Bite me." As soon as these words came out, the cockroach was obviously stunned. However, I soon seemed to understand something. His body seemed to be shrinking, but his mouth seemed to be open. As if he was in trouble. What are you doing standing still? Bite. As soon as Su Chen's scolding came out, the cockroach quickly bit down on Su Chen's wrist. Su Chen immediately felt a strong poison pouring into his body. This made him feel a little dazed. As expected of a system product, this poison is too terrifying. Feeling that the body was being eroded by the poison, the GU insects in the orifices seemed to be aware of the danger and began to move uneasily. However, this situation did not last long. Su Chen felt the GU master's energy in his body operating on its own and beginning to dissolve the poison. As the poison was constantly being resolved, Su Chen felt as if something was being forced out of her body. Looking at his arm, there was actually an extra layer of silt-like stuff. No way, this thing can cleanse the essence. In his previous life, Su Chen also read a lot of novels, and this situation immediately reminded him of the matter of washing the essence and cutting off the marrow. Watching more and more stolen goods being discharged, at the same time, my body felt as comfortable as soaking in a hot spring. It seems to really cleanse the essence and marrow. After these dirt are drained away, his training qualifications will become better. Unexpectedly, the poison of these poisonous pets has such an effect. I hadn't discovered it before. So Su Chen stopped hesitation and released a few poisonous pets to bite him a few times. The toxins in the body become extremely rich. However, Su Chen was expelling more and more dirt from her body. Finally, there were those things on the face and the top of the head. Finally, until no more dirt was removed, the cleansing ended. Regardless of Jessica, who had been sucking for more than an hour and still hadn't finished taking a shower, she rushed into the bathroom and started washing her body. Jessica was so frightened that she screamed and ran out. After about half an hour, Su Chen came out freshly dressed in a bath towel. At the moment, Jessica was sitting on the sofa wearing only a bath towel, looking at Su Chen with eyes full of resentment. "You, at least tell me." Obviously, Su Chen suddenly burst into the bathroom just now, which shocked her. "I'm sorry, I just had a problem with my super ability, and I discharged a lot of magazines from my body. I just washed them off completely now," Su Chen explained and threw the dirty clothes into the trash can outside. Jessica glanced at Su Chen. She didn't know why, but he seemed to have become more handsome. And why was his skin so good? My God, how come my hair is softer than that of a woman? Seeing this scene, Jessica's original resentful mood turned into shyness. This guy was already handsome, but he seems to be even more handsome now. The problem with your super ability is to make you more handsome. Seeing Jessica looking at him, obviously a little shy, he was slightly confused, then glanced at the mirror next to him. He himself was startled at this sight. Washing the essence and cutting down the marrow actually produced such a big change. At the moment, Su Chen's skin became as delicate as a baby's, and her face became more handsome. He seems to have grown 3 centimeters taller, about 1.85 meters tall. Even the hair becomes very soft. Looking at the muscle lines on the body, they are very ornamental. At the same time, a certain part seems to have developed a second time. It was originally quite large, but now it has become even more terrifying. Su Chen didn't know how to describe the mood at the moment. Even though she was bitten by a poisonous pet, she is not like Gwen or Jessica. She has no super ability. But this change is also an unexpected gain. But Su Chen knows. Maybe I am the only one who can use the toxins of these poisonous pets to fight poison with poison to eliminate these impurities in my body. But you really stink just now. Jessica thought of how Su Chen looked like a clay figure just now, with a smell all over his body. Even if the exhaust is turned on, the smell in the bathroom has not dissipated. It will probably take one night to arrange. Where will you sleep tonight? I don't know why, but after almost losing her virginity in the first murder, Jessica's mentality has gradually changed. His originally reserved character also became bold. Now seeing Su Chen's half-fruited body, my mouth felt dry for a while. After cleansing the essence and marrow, Su Chen clearly felt that her senses were stronger. Feeling Jessica's fiery gaze looking at him, how could he not understand? A speechless night. The next day, Su Chen woke up from the sofa. After cleansing my essence and cutting my marrow, my energy seemed to be extra strong. Seeing Jessica's look of letting anyone pick her, she almost couldn't hold back. Although he also likes Jessica's character, the two have only just met. He doesn't like indulgence without emotion. When he turned on the phone, he saw several missed calls, some from Norman Osborn and some from Tony Stark. After closing the bedroom door and walking to the hall, Su Chen first called Norman Osborn. The other party quickly connected, and Osborn's voice came immediately. "Boss, I have taken care of everything in the company. Look at my son's illness. Well done. Implement the medical pharmacy project as soon as possible. You can bring your son to me and I will save him. Since you have promised your subordinates, you cannot write a blank check." However, he could feel that he would soon break through the GU King. When the mall function is opened, a lot of money will definitely be needed. Osborn must hurry up and start the medical potion project. He believes that once this project comes out, it will definitely influence the medical field. Moreover, he was not afraid that after saving Norman's son Harry, the other party would become passive and slow down. With Servant GU around, he wasn't afraid that Norman wouldn't work well for him. Okay, boss, I've sent people here to start preparations. Don't worry. I'll pick up Harry and take him to you. Quote, Norman Osborn is very excited. The genetic disease that has plagued my family for many years has finally been resolved. They can also live to old age like normal people. After hanging up the phone, Norman Osborn smiled with grooves on his face. He said to the old housekeeper beside him, "Harry is saved, ha ha ha, our Osborn family's genetic disease has finally been solved." Boss Su Chen is definitely sent by God to save me. Quote. The old housekeeper was equally excited. This is really great, Boss Su is such a good person. I'm going to pick up Harry from school now. Norman Osborn didn't delay any longer and drove towards Midtown High School in New York. Ah, monster. I'm scared to death. Run. Not long after, Norman Osborn arrived at Midtown High School. Just as I was about to get off the car and enter the school, I saw many students jumping out of the shrinking gate in panic. It was as if he had encountered something particularly terrifying. Osborn's heart sank and he exclaimed, "Oh no, Harry." Regardless of the fact that the retractable door had just opened a small gap, he stepped on the accelerator and rushed in. The side of the expensive car was scratched on the retractable door and the wall of the guard room was completely deformed. But Norman Osborn can't control that much anymore. His son may be in danger. At the moment, in the teaching building of Zhongcheng High School, a 3-meter-tall lizard monster was constantly destroying everything around it. At the same time, he grabbed the student who was trying to escape and asked in a voice like a beast's roar, "Tell me, where is Harry Osborn?" After hanging up the phone, Su Chen first ordered meals for 20 people. So he sat on the sofa and began to feel the state of his body. Maybe it's because the purple man was given a fatal blow by Jessica. Therefore, Su Chen did not receive energy point rewards. Even though he sucked the GU, he didn't absorb the purple man's power. However, this cleansing of the essence and marrow has brought Su Chen great benefits. The improvement of his qualifications will make his future cultivation of GU Dao very smooth. Soon, the ordered meal was delivered. Su Chen did not wake up Jessica, who was still sleeping, and started eating by herself. Just leave some for her. Yesterday he tried to practice the GU Master cultivation method. You can indeed feel the barrier to break through the GU King, but you can't break through it. It seems that energy points are still needed. When will there be another super villain for him to deal with? Turn on the TV and see if there is really any emergency. That way we can punish evil and promote good. You didn't even wake me up, but you ate alone. At this moment, Jessica's lazy voice came. Su Chen, who was stuffing something in her mouth, turned around and saw Jessica wearing men's pajamas. Puff. Seeing this, Su Chen almost couldn't help but burst out. Jessica was already very thin and could not hold up Su Chen's pajamas. A large area of white snow leaked out, and at the neckline, if it wasn't blocked by that proud figure, it would probably fall off. Through the silk pajamas, Su Chen could even see that the girl was not wearing that, and her 2Ps, ah. What are you looking at? After Jessica sat down without washing, she picked up a steamed bun and started to eat it. Seeing Su Chen looking at him like this, he asked a little strangely. Su Chen quickly looked away, changed the topic and said, "Nothing, are you feeling better?" Jessica showed a relieved smile and nodded. "Just like you said, I just killed animals instead of people." "That's good." Seeing that she finally got out of the shadow caused by Ziren, she felt relieved. "Su Chen, can't you do it?" However, while Su Chen continued to cook, Jessica suddenly asked such a question. At this time, Su Chen completely burst out and said loudly, "What's wrong? I'm very strong." "Then you yesterday." Jessica said this without continuing, but looked at Su Chen with meaning. Quote. Su Chen was speechless. Why are these American girls like this? Isn't it good for her to hold back her impulse? Why does she seem to despise herself instead? Seeing Su Chen's unreasonable expression, Jessica smiled and waved her hand. "I'm kidding you, I have to talk to Gwen too." "What to talk about?" Su Chen didn't understand what the other party said. "You are such an idiot." Jessica was too lazy to pay attention to Su Chen and continued to eat. Just now, a lizard monster broke into Midtown High School and wreaked havoc for no reason. Many students and teachers have been injured or killed. Experts speculate that this is a monster caused by the lizard mutating due to the garbage thrown in the school. Just when the atmosphere was a little awkward, a breaking news suddenly appeared on the TV. Su Chen's eyes lit up. "It's so drowsy that I give you a pillow." So, with Jessica's stunned expression, she finished the meal for 20 people in less than 2 minutes. "I'll go out and deal with this monster, and you can look after the store at home." After leaving these words, Su Chen completely disappeared from the store. Looking at the empty plates, including the half-eaten buns in her bowl, Jessica couldn't help but complain. "Can you save some for me? Now, I have to order food again." Feeling the real power in her body, Jessica knew that everything yesterday was true. He glanced at Xiaosai on his arm and touched the other person's head. "Thank you, Xiaosai. If it weren't for you, I might not be able to awaken such extraordinary power." It seemed that he understood Jessica's words, and even deliberately shook the poisonous hook. At Midtown High School, Lizard Man Connors ran quickly in a direction after asking several students. The humanoid lizard's body allows him to easily crawl forward on the top of the corridor, crawling sideways. Finally, the lizard man found two figures who were also running frantically for their lives. One of them he knew very well was his former assistant and student Peter Parker. At the moment, he was dragging another person constantly towards the school gate at the back. The man looked a bit like Norman Osborn. Obviously, it was the other party's son, Harry Osborn. "This is the guy he's looking for. Peter, he's coming, he's coming." Seeing the lizard man charging towards the two of them like a leopard, Harry Osborn was almost frightened. Although Peter Parker, who pulled him away, was also very scared. However, what happened to him recently made him much stronger than Harry Osborn. "Harry, don't look back, run." However, as soon as he finished speaking, he felt as if he was hit by a speeding car and suddenly flew out. Boom! After the body flew more than 10 meters away, it crashed to the ground. "I don't know whether I will live or die. Peter." Harry jumped and couldn't help but scream. However, as soon as he shouted, he felt his body being grabbed from behind. In an instant, a chill rushed from the soles of his feet to Tianling. "Harry Osborn, where are you going?" An inhuman voice sounded in Harry's ears, making him scream in surprise. Turning his head, he saw the Gundam lizard monster lifting him in the air, looking at him with a ferocious face. "Who are you? Please don't kill me. My father will give you whatever you want." Harry Osborn obviously didn't know that his family's company had been acquired long ago. "Your dad, ha ha ha, he deserves to die. If it weren't for him, how could I be like this? I want him to lose you as his son, and let him experience the despair of losing the thing he loves most." Quote. Upon hearing Harry Osborn's words, the lizard man directly used his other hand to grab Harry Osborn's neck and lift him up in the air. "Hey, big lizard, let him go quickly, and I will be your opponent." At this moment, a specially changed voice came into the lizard man's ears. When he turned around, he saw a girl wearing a Ghost Spider battlesuit behind him. "Ghost Spider-Man, how dare you meddle in your own business?" The lizard men have apparently also heard of their friendly neighbor, Ghost Spider-Man, who's been in the spotlight lately. Unexpectedly, the other party actually came back to stop him. In a moment of rage, he punched Harry Osborn's legs and broke them, leaving them on the ground. Then he rushed towards Gwen. Watching Harry Osborn's legs being brutally broken, he screamed in pain and fainted. Gwen's face was full of shock. She didn't expect this guy to be so cruel. He dodged the opponent's attack and quickly shot out a stream of gray-black water droplets from his fingers. It is the ability to release poison that the original Ghost Spider-Man does not have. When dealing with such a cruel bad guy, Gwen no longer talks about humanity. Directly releases corrosive venom. The lizard man obviously didn't expect that Gwen would actually release poison. As a result, his scaly skin was corroded and white smoke emitted. "You guy." The lizard man felt pain and was extremely ferocious. No matter that Gwen kept shooting venom on his body, he attacked Gwen head-on. Gwen was shocked and evaded quickly. Cobweb shoots out from the wrist and sticks to the lizard man. When the lizard man didn't react, he quickly circled around his body. In this way, the cobweb trapped the lizard people into rice dumplings with 3 layers inside and 3 outside. The lizard man roars constantly, like a beast. However, Gwen's cobweb is obviously several times tougher than the original man-made cobweb. To break free, it would take dozens of tons of force. Maguire's version of cobweb can pull a completely out-of-control train with his bare hands. Gwen's cobweb is noticeably tougher because of Chloe's involvement. "Hey, Harry Osborn, just hold on, I'll take you to the hospital right now." Harry Osborn and Peter Parker are all her classmates. Although this boy is a rich second generation, he has no heirs. Instead, he becomes good friends with Peter Parker, who is not in a good condition. Gwen was willing to save him for a moment. Definitely, as Ghost Spider-Man, she will take action even if a stranger is in danger. Cough cough cough. Soon, Harry Osborn was actually awakened by Gwen, coughing up blood foam from his mouth. Gwen's eyes lit up, the other party was not dead yet. However, just when she wanted to see if Peter Parker over there was okay, there was a roar of huge amounts, accompanied by the sound of something tearing apart. Reptile, go to hell. I saw that the lizard man had broken the cobweb on his body and punched Gwen with a fierce punch. Gwen's spider senses were on alert, but she underestimated the enemy after all. The opponent's huge fist slammed into her back. Click. Gwen's backbone broke and her body flew out. If you dare to stop me, you will go to hell. The lizard man roared as he looked at Gwen, who was lying on the ground with no idea of his life or death. Capture Harry Osborn, who is still conscious. It's because you are Norman Osborn's son. See you in the next life. With that said, he was going to break Harry Osborn's neck. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, several tearing air sounds suddenly reached the lizard man's ears. After becoming a lizard man, the 5 senses have also been enhanced. Lizard man Connors waved his hand, ding ding ding. Several rounds of specially made flying darts were shot to the ground. His skin is hard enough to withstand these flying darts, apparently. The lizard man turned his head and saw a guy wearing a goblin-like suit and flying in the air on hang gliders. Let him go. Although I have never fought against this sudden appearance of a lizard man, I know that I cannot underestimate the enemy. So, after Norman Osborn entered the school, he put on the Green Goblin suit in the trunk. Seeing that his son was actually in danger, Norman Osborn was extremely anxious. So, out came the Green Goblin flying darts. Green Goblin. The lizard man has seen the previous news and knows about Green Goblin. Why did he suddenly appear here? And it's getting better. No, why does this guy smell so familiar? The lizard man, who had enhanced his 5 senses, immediately realized something was wrong. Then, he said with some surprise, "You are Norman Oz." As soon as these words came out, Norman Osborn in midair, and being grabbed by the neck and lifted up in the air. Harry Osborn, who was about to lose consciousness due to suffocation, was shocked. What did you say? Norman Osborn was anxious, but he didn't want his son to know that he was the Green Goblin. After all, before Su Chen rescued him, he was doing similar things to the current lizard man. Dad. However, Harry had some difficulty making this sound as his neck was being strangled. He endured the suffocating feeling from his neck, and when he saw the eyes behind the Green Goblin mask, he recognized the other person. For a moment, he even forgot that he was lifted up in midair. It was as if the things he admired and believed in the most had become extremely ugly at this moment. His father was actually the Green Devil who committed most crimes. He still remembered what he said to Peter, if shooting such a guy 100 times wouldn't be enough. Who would have thought that this devil was actually his father? A wave of despair surged into my heart, and tears kept falling. Harry, Norman Osborn also knew that he could no longer hide it. He lifted up the Green Goblin's visor, and his face was pale. Norman Osborn, I didn't expect you to be a sanctimonious guy. However, if you dare to withdraw my capital and take away my most beloved thing, then I will also experience the feeling of losing my beloved. Quote. The lizard man's lizard-like face was full of mockery. Norman Osborn is indeed a bright guy on the outside but a dirty guy on the inside. After hearing what the other party said, Norman Osborn immediately understood the identity of this lizard man and was a little stunned. Connors, you have turned into this. Norman Osborn knew this guy, who somehow turned into a monster. Transformed into a humanoid lizard with no human form, only hatred. HMPH, I'm going to kill your son, and then beat you into a cripple. Ignoring Norman Osborn's astonishment, he pinched the neck of Harry, who was looking sad. He threw it on the ground like trash. Harry, Norman Osborn's eyes were splitting as he saw that his son was killed right in front of his eyes. Infinite sadness welled up in my heart. Go to hell. However, he didn't have time to feel sad as the huge green fist was already attacking him. Norman Osborn's eyes were twitching wildly. Although Green Goblin's personality disappeared, Su Chen did not destroy his extraordinary power. It also enhanced his 5 senses, allowing him to quickly control the glider and dodge the opponent's attacks. A pumpkin bomb escaped from his arms and was suddenly thrown towards Lizard Connors, who was still completing the attack. As quickly as possible, he grabbed his son's body and retreated into the distance. Boom! The violent explosion caused the original location to burst into flames. The lizard men were enveloped in it. However, Osborn was about to breathe a sigh of relief. The lizard Connors, covered in darkness and dripping with blood, suddenly rushed out from the fire bug. He rushed towards Norman Osborn with a ferocious face. At this time, before Norman Osborn had time to react, the lizard man jumped him from the hang glider to the ground. The body of Harry Osborn was also dumped aside. Osborn, I'm going to cripple you. Lizard men no longer have human emotions, only primitive hatred remains. He punched the glider aimed at him. With a roar, he punched Osborn's right arm. Norman Osborn wanted to resist, but it was too late. Click! Norman Osborn screamed, and the joints of his right arm were directly shattered. Next, the left arm suffered the same fate. Norman Osborn is indeed very powerful. However, compared to Green Goblin's brutal personality, his reckless fighting style is much different. Therefore, from the beginning, the lizard man Connors had the upper hand. At the moment, the lizard man pressing on Norman Osborn stood up, and stepped down with his huge feet towards Norman Osborn's thighs. His purpose was to kill Norman Osborn's son and then cripple him. Let him live in pain for the rest of his life. If you dare to withdraw investment and prevent yourself from developing projects, you will have to pay such a price. With a scream, the lizard man directly crushed Norman Osborn's right leg. Norman Osborn, tell me who your new boss is, and I can give you a leg. It was inevitable that Norman Osborn would pay a price. However, he also has to settle the score with the new boss who ordered Osborn to divest. Without this guy, perhaps, Osborn would not necessarily divest. HMPH, if you want me to tell you boss, just dream. Norman Osborn had blood foaming from the corner of his mouth and endured severe pain. With the servant poison planted in his body, he would not betray Su Chen even if he died. You still have the energy to speak harshly. Then I will completely make you a cripple. The lizard man saw the look on the other side, rage again, and prepared to step down again. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying force slammed into the lizard man. It flew nearly 100 meters until it hit the playground wall and crashed out. A figure stood proudly in front of Norman Osborn. Old boss, Norman Osborn, who almost fainted, was immediately surprised when he saw this figure. At the moment, although Su Chen had his face covered, Norman Osborn recognized Su Chen at a glance because of the servant Gu. Then, he felt that his appearance was too embarrassing, so he gritted his teeth and said, I'm sorry, boss, I'm embarrassing you. Su Chen lowered his head and glanced at the extremely miserable Norman Osborn, and the corners of his mouth twitched. This lizard man really has no humanity at all. However, when Su Chen saw Gwen lying on the ground in the distance with her spine broken, her anger surged. This guy actually dares to beat the woman he likes like this. He comforted Osborn. Don't worry, you and your son will be whole again. Thank you, boss. Norman Osborn shed tears and looked at his son's body in the distance. Boom, boom, boom. As soon as Norman Osborn finished speaking, the lizard man rushed forward quickly. It's really thick-skinned and thick-skinned. Su Chen's face turned cold and he suddenly stepped forward to greet him. Boom, another punch, and the lizard man was knocked away by Su Chen without even having time to react. Then, Su Chen chased after him at extremely fast speed. Bang bang bang. There were sounds of hitting one after another. Lizard man Connors had no power to fight back and was pinned down by Su Chen on the playground and beaten wildly. I am the new boss. Don't you want to seek revenge from me? Come on. Bang bang bang. You disgusting lizard, see if I don't kill you. Bang bang bang. You dare to hit the woman I like, you are so bold. Bang bang bang. It took a long time until only a small part of the lizard man's head was beaten, and there was a big hole in his chest. The arms and thighs were even shredded. Su Chen then stopped attacking. Phew, this guy's skin is really tough. If it weren't for the perfect physical strength of his high-level GU master, and the strength of an ox originally, combined with the strength of an ox GU. There is really no way to beat the opponent like this. At this time, a system prompt sounded in his mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host, you defeated the villain Kurt Connors and will be rewarded with 25 energy points. As soon as this sound came out, Su Chen immediately felt that there was pure energy in his body again. At the same time, the barrier to the Gu King realm began to break down. Boom! After a dull sound came from the body. Su Chen's realm finally broke through to the first level Gu King. In an instant, Su Chen felt that his body had become 100 times stronger. The eyes see things around them more clearly. Even the tiny dust particles in the air can be seen. I moved my body a few times. The mobility and speed of the body have increased several times. Now if he were to face those purebred vampires who were like loaches, it would definitely not be that difficult. Those guys will be like chickens, he will finish them off in a few seconds. The host breaks through the Gu King stage, and the malfunction is activated. Give out 3 lucky draw opportunities. In addition to the product function, there is also a lottery function. I don't know how to get this lottery opportunity. I have to study it carefully in the future. Feel the widening meridians in the body and the powerful energy belonging to the Gu King level. Su Chen couldn't help but feel a little excited. The power I have now can at least go sideways. However, I still feel that there is alien energy in my body that is sluggish in energy movement. To purify the Gu-like insects, I will buy it soon. Old boss. Just when Su Chen was lost in thought, Norman Osborn's slightly painful voice came over. Alarm sirens were heard outside. It seems that this time is not suitable for viewing the system mall. Looking at the feet again, the lizard man actually disappeared. Only a few days' worth of stumps were left in place. A sewer manhole cover in the distance was opened at some point. Su Chen knew that he had underestimated the lizard man's recovery speed. This guy is like that and he's not dead yet. A monster is a monster. You can also take advantage of his breakthrough and use up your last strength to enter the sewer and escape. But Su Chen would not go into the sewer to chase. As long as this guy dares to show his face, he will never have a chance to live again. Then, Su Chen didn't care whether Norman Osborn could bear it or not, he grabbed his defective body and held it against his shoulders. Then he tucked Gwen under his arm, grabbed the body of Norman's son Harry with his other hand, and quickly left the place. Not long after, George Stacy arrived with a squadron of police officers. I saw blood stains on the ground and several stumps. Seeing Peter Parker lying on the ground in the distance, George Stacy said, "See if the child is okay, take these away, check the sewer entrance. See if you can track down the lizard man's whereabouts." Quote. In recent days, George Stacy has gradually become accustomed to monsters doing evil. All the police can do is deal with the follow-up and then trace the traces of the monster. Now, even an ordinary person like him can feel that the world has changed. It became dangerous, and in a short period of time, several evil monsters appeared. "Director, this child is still alive." The officer checked Peter Parker and found that he was still breathing. George nodded. "Send him to the hospital." So these police officers divided their duties, cleaning up the police, sending people away, and investigating. George went to the school's surveillance room to find out what happened. Just saw everything. When he saw the lizard man who was not even afraid of the enhanced pumpkin bomb, he had no chance to fight back in Su Chen's hands. He was beaten to a pulp, and he couldn't help but take a breath of air. It's him again. Last time, he vaguely saw Su Chen's figure, but because Su Chen was too fast, he didn't see it clearly. I just vaguely saw the figure. This time, although Su Chen covered his face, he could still see Su Chen's figure. He must find out this person's identity. He wants to know what the purpose of this person is. Why do you do this? Su Chen runs and jumps among the tall buildings in the city. Compared to the previous Gu Master Realm, he was more relaxed and free-spirited, just like walking on flat ground. Now, even if there is no flight-type Gu insect, it is still no weaker than those flying super-ability beings. Su Chen did not go back to his place, but first came to a mid-range community. Place Gwen, Osborn and his son on the roof of the building, stretch out their palms, and start medical treatment. A stronger medical light than before enveloped the three of them. The injuries of the three people were seen recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. The Osborns, who had lost their limbs, all grew new limbs. Harry Osborn, who lost his breath, also regained his life 123. At the same time, Gwen's broken spine all returned to normal. The injuries in the body have also recovered as before. In less than a minute, all three people recovered from their injuries. However, the consciousness still has not awakened. He glanced at Gwen, who was wearing a ghost spider battlesuit, and curiously lifted his mask. There was still a trace of pain on Gwen's pretty face. Su Chen slowly touched her smooth forehead with his palm, and then saw that Gwen's painful expression gradually eased. Gradually a smile appeared. Looking at the cute sleeping Gwen, Su Chen couldn't help but smile slightly. Looking at the other party's very attractive red lips, Su Chen didn't know why he kissed her uncontrollably. So soft and sweet. Is this what a girl smells like? In 2 lifetimes, Su Chen experienced the feeling of kissing for the first time. Definitely, just a light kiss. There was no passionate French kiss. He would like to, but he has already taken advantage of others' danger and can't continue to be such a fool. So, put the mask on Gwen again. Holding Osborn and his son between them, he left quickly. This is Gwen's neighborhood. After she wakes up, she can go home directly. Not long after, Gwen woke up from her coma. She felt like she was having a dream. When I dreamed that I was about to die, a figure bathed in holy light came towards me. All his injuries were restored to their original state because of this holy light. Then, that body actually kissed me. The other person's lips are very charming and fascinating. So masculine, so gentle. It's all as if it really happened. How wonderful it would be if time stayed at that moment forever. But after the figure kissed him, he slowly left. I wanted to grab the other person, but couldn't catch him. I could only watch the figure leave. As her consciousness became clearer and clearer, Gwen suddenly woke up. Then he found himself lying on the roof of a building. Why am I here? Didn't I have my spine broken by a lizard man? Gwen's consciousness was still at the stage where she was knocked flying by the lizard man who suddenly rushed over. Gwen checked her body subconsciously and found that her body was intact. Suddenly a look of astonishment appeared on his face. Why did I recover everything? Who saved me? Could it be possible that it was because of mourning? Thinking of a possibility, Gwen couldn't help but become nervous. If it was really Su Chen who saved him, would the other party already know that he was Ghost Spider-Man? Moreover, the other party actually put himself upstairs in his own community. This is how to do. For a moment, Gwen panicked. She didn't know what would happen if Su Chen knew that she was Ghost Spider-Man. Do you think of yourself BHAA as a monster? Probably not. He also has super ability, so he should understand himself. For a moment, Gwen was in a state of confusion. He even forgot that he almost died just now. I have to go find Su Chen and see if he is in the store. Gwen has roughly determined that he can instantly restore other people's injuries. There is probably no one else but Su Chen who knows where his home is. But she still wanted to confirm. She hoped Su Chen wouldn't know. After all, the persona she wanted to create in front of Su Chen was his Gwen Stacy persona. Instead, the palm can grow hard thorns at any time, which can release poison and cobwebs. Ghost Spider-Man character. Lean less. Su Chen came to Osborn Villa. Seeing the unconscious master and young master with tattered clothes and blood stains, they were brought back by Su Chen. The old housekeeper was startled and thought they had been seriously injured. Su Chen sat on the sofa and waved his hand. Don't worry, they are fine and will wake up soon. The old housekeeper nodded, knowing that the old master and young master must have been seriously injured, and it was Su Chen who used that magical power to save them. I couldn't help but feel grateful again. Su Chen waved his hand and didn't care. After all, he was his own person. You can't just ignore it. Su Chen arranged for the old housekeeper to cook steak, while he sat on the sofa and watched the system mall. The Osborns would not catch a cold even if they lay on the wool carpet. Soon, Su Chen's consciousness entered a very large house. It is more like a palace than a house. Looking up, you can't see the roof at all. Obviously, there are many layers. On the first floor where Su Chen is located, there are rows of shelves. Categorize. In addition to various types of GU insects, there are also weapons, pills, skill scrolls, etc. It's simply a dazzling array of things to see here. Su Chen glanced upstairs. There were many more floors. The GU worms here are only level 1 or 2 GU worms. Obviously it corresponds to the realm of his GU master and GU king. If you want to get other higher level GU insects, you need to go up. And above, there are more product types. Then go up and have a look. However, just as Su Chen was about to step onto the stairs to the second floor, he was pushed back by a force. Su Chen tried a few more times in disbelief and found that it was still the same. Then I knew that I couldn't go to the second floor now. You need to break through the realm again. He stopped stubbornly testing and started to explore those GU insects. Attack type, defense type, auxiliary type, speed type, purification type, flight type. Su Chen looked at area after area. There was only one feeling for him. What the hell, why is this GU insect so expensive? Is the system trying to rob it? Chapter 65. That's right, Su Chen just took a walk. Just found out, even for a GU insect, the cheapest price is in hundreds of millions. This simply made him have to greet the 19th generation of the ancestors of the system all over again. Su Chen found the cheapest second-level GU insect, a purifying GU insect. Purifying water GU. Purifying GU-like insects, which can purify the alien energy in the body and completely transform it into the energy star that suits you. Price: 680 million. Grass, a plant. System: did you think that I got 2.5 billion from the beginning, and the price was deliberately increased? Su Chen couldn't help but curse, but didn't get a systematic answer. He looked dejectedly at the weapons shelf next to him. There are all kinds of weapons such as swords, guns, swords, halberds, axes, hooks and forks. However, the price is even more outrageous. The cheapest dagger costs more than 1 billion. If the system mall is opened, it is better not to open it. If 477 is not turned on, after seeing so many good things, I will experience an unattainable feeling. Su Chen took a deep breath. These weapons should be able to cooperate with the GU Master's power to exert more powerful combat effectiveness. Therefore, it is not an ordinary weapon. Looking at the pills and exercises again, Su Chen closed his eyes and leaned back. The price is even more shocking. System: if you come out, I won't beat you to death. Su Chen didn't want to continue watching. The more she watched, the more uncomfortable she became. So, he tried to say, System, don't I have 3 chances to draw a lottery? Can I draw now? Ding, yes, your uncle. Why did you hear this? Su Chen didn't want to be more angry about such a brain-dead system. Because he is afraid that he will be angry to death. Then, Su Chen saw something similar to a lottery number box appearing in front of him. There are also balls of many colors inside, which seem to be beating on their own. After about a minute or so, a round ball slipped out of the small hole below. Ding, congratulations to the host for winning a pair of disguised contact lenses. Camouflage contact lenses. Wearing them in your eyes can change your appearance, temperament, and voice, making them unrecognizable to familiar people. This thing is a good thing, a bit similar to Superman. If that guy didn't wear glasses, no one would recognize him. However, his appearance, temperament, and jealousy completely changed. It is estimated that even the people closest to you will not be able to recognize it after wearing it. With this, there is no need to cover your face all the time. Continue. Then, the ball in the box continued to beat. This time it took 3 minutes for a new ball to pop up. Ding, congratulations to the host for drawing the Servant GU. I actually got the Servant GU. No need to read the introduction, Su Chen already knew its effectiveness. There's no such thing as too much. Come again. Now that the lottery has been decided, there is no need to save it for next time. The ball jumped wildly, and after 5 minutes, the last one popped out. Ding, congratulations to the host for drawing the GU Master Energy Sword. GU Master Energy Sword, an offensive weapon that can use its own GU Master Energy to produce a substantial lightsaber. Its destructive power can be enhanced as the GU Master's strength increases. Su Chen thought, and a lightsaber hilt similar to that in Star Wars appeared in his hand. Use the GU Master's energy to activate it. Su Chen's current state is just a mental body, so he can only test this weapon when he goes out. This lottery is pretty good and the system is quite conscientious. As for buying water purification GU, it seems that I have to trick Tony Stark. Anyway, what this guy is most in need of is money. Master, you are awake, this is really great. As soon as Su Chen regained consciousness, she heard the excited voice of the old housekeeper. Thank you, boss, for once again saving my life and my son's life. From now on, I will definitely work hard to repay my boss. Norman Osborn took aside Harry Osborn, who had just woken up and was still in a daze, and was about to kowtow to Su Chen. However, Harry Osborn was like a statue, sitting on the floor and staring blankly at his father. Dad, did you really sell the company, and are you still the Green Devil? Hearing this, Norman Osborn's heart skipped a beat. I actually forgot about this. I haven't told Harry Osborn about these things yet. Looking at his son's unbelievable and unfamiliar eyes, Norman's couldn't help but feel his heart shrink. He glanced at Su Chen, gritted his teeth and said, I'm sorry, Harry, actually, I didn't tell you that our family has always had serious genetic diseases. And I, because of this genetic disease, have been living for a few years. Therefore, I focus the company's focus on biogenetics. I hope that a medicine can be developed. It can solve the genetic disease in our family, but I didn't expect that. But he made a potion that distorted people's personalities. After refraction, a devil personality was born in my body. Then, I made those big mistakes. Hearing this, Harry Osborn couldn't believe it, but he still understood. It's still a bit hard to accept. He has lived for so long, and his father has not told him about the genetic disease. It was because of this that my father became the Green Devil. Although he is a brainless rich second generation, he also knows that due to changes in family business projects in recent years, I was almost going bankrupt because I couldn't hold on any longer. It turned out that my father wanted to solve this family genetic disease. Also to save his son. He really wanted his father to take legal responsibility for the mistakes he made. However, without his father's protection, he might not even be able to survive. So, by acquiring our family business, he also saved Osborn. Harry Osborn also accepted this fact. No rudeness, Harry, this is our boss. If you weren't the boss, how could you come back to life? When Norman Osborn saw his son being so rude to his boss, regardless of whether the other party had forgiven him or not, he shouted loudly. Yes, you saved me. Resurrected me. Although Harry Osborn's face was full of shock, he already had the answer in his heart. Because just now he really felt the disappearance of life and the death of consciousness. However, he did not die. Not only did he come back to life, all the injuries on his body disappeared. The person who saved him was the young man in front of him who looked about the same age as himself. When did this world become so magical? The shock in Harry Osborn's eyes could not be concealed. Very good, you can accept such explosive news so quickly, which can be regarded as a goodwill. Su Chen looked at the other party. Although he was still shocked, he had already accepted these realities. Norman Osborn hurriedly echoed, this is all the boss's favor. Without you, Harry would be dead. He is extremely grateful to Su Chen as his master. Looking at Harry Osborn in front of me, Su Chen thought of him in the original work, who also briefly inherited the title of Green Goblin. Known as the Little Green Goblin. My personal strength is indeed very strong, but I also need to form a team. It would be great if Harry Osborn could become a little green goblin and work for him. So, Su Chen said something that stunned everyone present. Norman Osborn, inject your son with human strengthening potion. As soon as these words came out, the scene was quiet for dozens of seconds. Gulu. Norman Osborn then asked with some uncertainty, Boss, are you sure you meant injecting Harry with the potion? Right. Looking at Harry Osborn, whose jaw was about to hit the ground, Su Chen smiled. Since Norman Osborn can inject body-strengthening medicine, his son must also be able to. When the time comes, if he also develops a demonic personality, then he can just kill him himself. Medical GU can treat any mental illness, and split personality is one of them. This is why Su Chen dared to issue such an order. No, I don't want to become that devil. Apparently, after Harry Osborn learned about his father's situation, he also knew that the potion would give birth to the Green Goblin personality. Boss, are you sure you can dispel that demonic personality like you did with me? Although Norman Osborn had already experienced it once, this was his own son after all, so he was somewhat worried. Don't worry, my ability is not just a show-off. Servant GU will not change their original will. Therefore, they are still them, but they will always regard Su Chen as their master and never ask for betrayal. Okay, I got it, boss. Harry, listen to me. Norman Osborn no longer doubted his master's words and began to explain to his son. Su Chen followed the old housekeeper's lead and went to a spacious restaurant in the villa. On the high-end dining table, there are dozens of steaks with different flavors and various other foods. Su Chen's stomach had already protested, and she started to feel restless as soon as she sat on the chair. These steaks are still made in the Western way, which is much worse than Eastern dishes. Su Chen still likes the food from their foodie country. However, now I can only rely on these to fill my stomach. Sir, this is the Kobe beef that I specially asked me to buy from Sakura. Do you think it doesn't suit your taste? The old butler poured red wine for Su Chen and introduced her. Not bad, I can buy more of this steak in the future. The price of this item is much different compared to the items in the mall. Okay, sir. The old butler was waiting aside, looking like a personal butler. On the other side, although Harry Osborn was still a little skeptical, he was still dragged into the laboratory by his father. The laboratory is in the basement of his villa, so it is very convenient to do this. When Harry Osborn grew up, it was the first time he knew that there was such a large laboratory under his family's villa. Looking at the equipment inside that was obviously damaged by violence and the black blood on the ground, Harry Osborn looked at his father nervously. Don't worry, the doctor is fine, he's just seriously injured. I've already arranged it. Feeling his son's gaze, Norman Osborn bowed his head in shame and explained. At that time, he was awakening Green Goblin personality, lost his humanity, and attacked the old doctor who injected him. Throw the opponent out. Afterwards, the other party was rescued by the old housekeeper, and he also paid a large amount of compensation to the other party's family. The doctor may be disabled, but his life is saved. Harry, don't worry, the boss won't lie, he will cure you. Norman Osborn solemnly promised his son again. Dad, I want to believe that, gentleman. If you can even do incredible things like bringing the dead back to life, there should be no problem in treating a person with split personality. So, Norman Osborn took out the only 2 remaining human strengthening potions and began to inject his son. Su Chen took the napkin from the old butler with satisfaction and wiped the corners of her mouth. Yes, this time Norman Osborn had obviously ordered the old butler to be well prepared. This time Su Chen was full. The old housekeeper still had his mouth wide open when he saw that the meal, which served more than 20 people, was so empty. Not bad, I'll put some Chinese bacteria in it next time. Su Chen spoke slowly, then stretched out his palm, and a white light enveloped the old housekeeper's body. Quickly retracting his palm, the old housekeeper was surprised to feel that some of the hidden diseases in his body had disappeared. My body seemed to have suddenly become 20 years younger. He instantly realized that Su Chen was helping him cure the hidden diseases in his body. Moreover, it seemed to make his aging body look younger. Man, thank you, sir. No, thank you, boss. I will go and learn Oriental cuisine right away, and I will never let you down. The old housekeeper thanked Su Chen excitedly and made a promise. Yes, Su Chen nodded with satisfaction. The old butler's cooking skills were pretty good. The taste of these steaks has reached the level of a 5-star chef. This proves that the other party is very capable in cooking. If you want him to learn Oriental cuisine, he should not use too much medicine. In this way, I won't have to spend money ordering meals outside all the time. Boom! A sound of huge amounts was heard, and the old housekeeper was startled. Su Chen's mouth slightly raised, and it seemed that the injection had been completed. The figure quickly left the restaurant and came to the underground laboratory. Harry, get over it and come with me to see the boss. Who are you? If you dare to interfere in my affairs, you are seeking death. As soon as he arrived at the basement, Su Chen saw a scene of loving father and son being played out inside. Norman Osborn is fighting with his son. Although Norman Osborn retained the power of the strengthening potion, after the injection, his son's young body The power is obviously stronger than him. Coupled with the demon personality generated by the opponent, every move is a fatal attack. Harry, go to hell, old man. Within a few seconds, Norman Osborn exclaimed and was thrown out by his son. Su Chen's footsteps flashed and he caught Norman Osborn, who was about to hit the metal experimental table. Boss, please, save Harry. Seeing Su Chen, who had saved him, Norman Osborn hurriedly pleaded. Su Chen nodded. At the moment, Harry Osborn no longer looked like a high school student just now. His eyes were full of madness. Another one wants to die, so I'll help you. With a loud shout, Harry Osborn rushed directly towards Su Chen. Snort. Su Chen snorted coldly, and a terrifying energy area emanated from his body. Harry Osborn, who was about to stab Su Chen's neck with his arm, suddenly stopped. He felt a mountain-like pressure acting on his body, making it difficult to move. Let me go, see if I don't kill you. Even though he was suppressed and kneeling on the floor, Harry Osborn, who was possessed by the devil personality, still gritted his teeth at Su Chen. Snapped. Before Su Chen could say anything, he saw Norman Osborn slap his son in the face and angrily yelled. You actually talked to the boss like that? I'm going to kill you. Devil personality Harry Osborn has red eyes and is constantly growling. Su Chen calmly stretched out his palm, and a white light enveloped the other person. Harry Osborn, the madly roaring demon personality, immediately fell silent. Then, there was an expression of extreme horror. No, no, please let me go, I will never dare to provoke you again. Please, I can be your slave. Looking at his son, who kept begging for mercy, although Norman Osborn felt distressed, he was more embarrassed. He seemed to have said the same thing when he was possessed by the Green Goblin personality. Can the devilish personality created be inherited? Soon, the demon personality was completely eliminated by Su Chen, and Harry Osborn also fainted. Boss. Norman Osborn looked at Su Chen anxiously. He's fine. Su Chen retracted his palm and walked out of the basement. Thank you, boss. Norman Osborn picked up his son and followed. Soon, Harry Osborn woke up. Although he was unconscious, the memory from just now was still there. The most important thing is that he feels that his body is full of strength. Is this the effect of the human body strengthening medicine? He now feels like a little Superman who can knock away a car with one punch. His strength is even stronger than that of his father. Looking at Su Chen in front of him, Sui Chong said gratefully. Thank you, boss. I will work for the boss like my father in the future. Su Chen nodded. If he hadn't put the newly obtained servant Gu on the other party, Su Chen would not have believed the other party's words. Jingle bell. At this moment, Harry Osborn's phone suddenly rang. The other party apologized and went to pick it up. Boss, I have started a potion project here. The basic potion liquid I chose. It is a traditional Chinese medicine tonic soup from your country, China. Without your magical power, ordinary people won't have any side effects if they drink it. Taking advantage of this time, Norman Osborn told Su Dao the plan for the medical potion. Make a batch first. Promote it well. Su Chen nodded, wondering if he should ask Tony to help him. But after thinking about it, I decided not to do it yet. Now Stark Industries has just closed its weapons division, and the stock has plummeted. His identity as Iron Man has not yet been revealed. New energy has not been put into the company's projects. You can't find him at this time. I don't know if this old boy has returned from going to the Middle East to destroy the 10 rings. The plot has changed and Obadiah is behind bars. I guess I won't see Iron Man fighting Iron Overlord anymore. In that case, will Iron Man's name still spread? Don't worry, boss, I won't let you down. Norman Osborn knew that he owed his boss too much, so he could only work hard. At this moment, Harry Osborn, who was on the phone at the side, suddenly shouted. What? How did Peter become a monster? Aunt May, don't worry, I'll be there right away. Harry Osborn put down the phone and planned to go out. However, he was stopped by Norman Osborn on the side. Harry, what happened? Harry Osborn said anxiously. My friend Peter Parker fell into a coma after being attacked by the lizard man. Then while being treated in the hospital, he turned into a spider monster. Now he is madly hurting innocent people. I'm going to stop him. Harry Osborn has just gained extraordinary powers and is becoming bolder. If it were in the past, he would definitely not have said anything to stop a monster. How did he become a monster? Norman Osborn asked with some confusion. Harry Osborn tried hard to remember it, and suddenly his eyes lit up. By the way, he told me before that he seemed to have been bitten by a spider. Could it be that he has also mutated his genes? He knew that his extraordinary power was caused by the injection of drugs that caused genetic mutations. Was Peter bitten by that spider and Bucky mutated? Boss. Norman Osborn glanced at Sue Chen with a hint of inquiry. Well, let's go and take a look together. This plot is really a mess. Peter Parker, who was supposed to become Spider-Man, actually turned into a monster. This made Sue Chen think that in the Marvel parallel universe, there seems to be a Peter Parker who turned into a spider monster. You should put on your equipment, otherwise you won't be able to use your full combat power. Yes, boss. Norman Osborn immediately nodded in agreement, and then pulled his anxious son into the basement again. Harry, come with me first. Not long after, two file-size Green Goblins wearing Green Goblin suits and flying hang gliders rushed out of the basement. Harry accepted the fact and did not reject the Green Goblin suit. On the contrary, he thought the suit invented by his father was a genius. Boss, we are ready. Norman Osborn's voice came from one of the Green Goblins. Sue Chen nodded. Well, let's go. Then, under the astonished gazes of the two Green Goblins and the old housekeeper, Sue Chen put on 2 contact lenses. Then, huge amounts of changes took place in my temperament and body shape. Old, boss. Seeing Sue Chen suddenly transformed into another person, several people dared not recognize him. This is a small trick, let's go. Although the Osborns were surprised, they were relieved when they thought that there were too many mysteries about their boss. Then, the two Green Goblins followed Sue Chen and flew out of the villa. Osborn apparently customized more than one Green Goblin suit. The hang glider and Green Goblin suit can be upgraded. It would be even better if it could be comparable to Tony's Mark armor. The speed of the hang glider was obviously very fast, and Norman Osborn actually used a new energy source to propel it. It looks similar to Tony's arc reactor. It seems that the arc reactor is not only made by Tony, his father Howard and the Whiplash father and son. It's not like others haven't discovered it either. Even the black girl Ironheart who appeared later could find it. This technology was difficult to realize in the original world, but in this world, it is easy to produce. File-size Green Goblin was a little surprised by the boss's speed. Their hang gliders flew far faster than a supercar in the air. But he was still far behind Sue Chen. This shows how terrifying the power of the boss is. Soon, Sue Chen arrived at the hospital Harry mentioned. Standing on the roof of the building not far away, you can see people constantly running out of the hospital screaming. Not long after, there was a loud bang. A spider as big as a bus smashed through the hospital wall and came outside. At the moment, armed troops were already gathered outside, and their automatic rifles were loaded. Shooting. Da da da. Following the officer's order, many soldiers pulled the good trigger one after another. Bullets hit the big spider's body one after another. The big spider was also attacked by dense bullets and kept retreating. However, the bullets did not penetrate its body and were all bounced off and fell to the ground. Seeing that the soldiers had run out of magazines and the big spider was about to break away from the fire suppression, 2 Green Goblins finally arrived. Peter, assistant. Harry Osborn stepped on the glider and shouted loudly not far from the big spider. I want to awaken Peter Parker's consciousness. However, the big spider couldn't understand Harry Osborn's words at all, and began to spin silk at the surrounding soldiers. The soldiers had no time to react and were restrained by Cobweb. He even vomited towards Harry Osborn. Harry Osborn's face changed slightly, and he hurriedly glided from the air to avoid the cobweb. Go ahead, Harry. He's not Peter anymore. Norman Osborn patted the opponent in fear, and then threw a pumpkin bomb. Harry Osborn's face behind the mask struggled for a moment, and then he also threw a pumpkin bomb. 2 huge amounts of explosion flames shot up into the sky, and huge amounts of spiders were enveloped in them. Huge amounts of the spider's body were blown up 2 meters high. However, it only hindered its movement and did not cause substantial harm. Sue Chen, who saw this scene from a distance, couldn't help but shook his head. The destructive power of this pumpkin bomb needs to be strengthened. Regarding this point, Yinshin still feels that Tony Stark is better at it. Although the weapons of Mark's armor are small, they are not small in destructive power. It seemed that it still caused pain to the big spider, so it actually opened its mouth and roared at the Osborns. Yes, this spider monster can actually roar. So, he waved his long legs to attack the two people floating in the air. Osborn and his son were shocked and hurriedly fled away. Boom! A car parked on the side of the road was directly pierced by the spider's legs. Seeing this scene, both of them couldn't help but feel numb. If this kind of attack power were to pierce the human body, it would be no different than piercing tofu. Boom boom boom. The two stopped hesitation and kept throwing pumpkin bombs. Know that all the pumpkin bombs are gone. It controls the glider to fire large caliber bullets and small missiles. These attacks made the big spider keep retreating. Finally, blood was also exposed on the body. Lie on the ground, motionless. I gonna go see. Harry Osborn suppressed the nervousness in his heart and controlled the glider to approach the big spider. Suddenly, the big spider's legs stood up again, facing Harry Osborn, who was approaching. Harry, seeing his son about to be pierced by the spider's legs, Norman Osborn's expression changed drastically, but it was too late to control the glider. At the last moment, Harry Osborn only felt that he was about to experience the feeling of death again. Then he saw a figure suddenly fall from the sky and hit the big spider on the back. The big spider was slammed to the ground, with it as the center, and a huge amount of cobweb-shaped pit formed around it. The Osborns were shocked when they saw this scene. Boss, Harry Osborn saw the figure on the spider's back clearly, and a feeling of disaster came to his heart. Compared with the huge amounts of spiders, the boss seems very small. However, such a big deep hole was directly created. Su Chen looked indifferent as he looked at the big spider that was unable to move after being stepped on by him. Peter Parker BHEG didn't turn into Spider-Man, but turned into a big spider. What a pity. So, I had to punch him down. It would be a disaster to keep such a monster alive. No, don't kill him, please, he really didn't hurt anyone. He just ran out of the hospital after turning into a spider. Just when Su Chen's fist was about to smash the spider's head into pieces, a figure hurried over, full of begging. Su Chen was stunned and looked at the running figure. The other party is a woman in her early 30s, although she has no makeup or high-end clothes. But it was still difficult to hide her beautiful face and proud figure. If there is anyone who can compare with her figure, it is Black Widow Natasha Romanoff. Gwen and Jessica are still in the development stage, but they are also naturally beautiful. As this woman Peter Parker's Aunt May. Seeing the other person crying and stroking the giant spider's head with his palm, Su Chen looked forward. Many soldiers wrapped in cobweb escaped from the predicament, but there were no casualties. Then, he looked at the Osborns. The two immediately realized how hard it was to fly a hang glider and ended up in the hospital. Soon, Osborn and his son came back one after another. Boss, Peter did not hurt anyone. He just attacked us. He may have fought back instinctively. After inquiring about the situation in the hospital, Harry Osborn spoke with a complicated expression. Su Chen looked at the spider with its huge head being caressed by the woman. Unexpectedly, tears also flowed from his eyes. Then, Su Chen saw that there seemed to be human sadness in the other person's eyes. Can you still stay conscious when you become a spider? Su Chen is even more unable to understand this world. Peter Parker did not become Spider-Man, but became a giant spider. Then, it doesn't turn into that kind of spider monster without intelligence. But a giant spider with self-awareness. This world is no longer the world in the movies and TV shows of his previous life. I can help him restore his original appearance, but I hope he can control himself in the future and not turn into a big spider casually. Since the opponent was still conscious, he didn't hurt anyone, he just fought back as a last resort. There is no need for Su Chen to kill the other party. However, his medical GU can only change the opponent back to his original appearance. But there is no way to change Spider-Man's mutated genes. In other words, he will most likely turn into a big spider in the future. After the malfunction is opened, Su Chen also knows that the value of medical GU is absolutely priceless. You can upgrade to another level without training together, and directly improve with the master's strength. This kind of GU insect is extremely containing. Except for the medical GU, none of the GU worms in his body does not need to be trained together to become a second-level GU worm. That's a bit far. When Marissa Tomei heard this, she immediately raised her head and looked at Su Chen. Can you really save Peter? She just saw this man from the side, like a magic weapon descending from heaven. In one fell swoop, Peter was transformed into this big spider. This handsome young man is definitely not an ordinary person. She has been working outside for so many years, and she has also heard of names like Daredevil and Punisher. These people all have unusual abilities. Obviously, this young man belongs to this group. But, does the other party really have the ability to save Peter? Looking at the giant spider that was still crying, Marissa Tomei was a little unsure. Is this possible? Seeing what the other party was thinking, Su Chen jumped off the back of the giant spider without saying much. Under Marissa Tomei's doubtful gaze, she stretched out her palm. White light enveloped the giant spider's body. Under the astonished gazes of many people around, the body of the big spider shrouded in white light kept changing. Finally, he completely recovered and turned into a boy who looked like a high school student. Hey, this is amazing. Did I just watch a movie? The big spider can actually turn back into a human. Whether it was the surrounding soldiers or the ordinary people watching, they felt as if they were in a state of panic when they saw this scene. This scene was also broadcast live by many people. For a time, the entire network was in uproar. However, Su Chen's appearance and temperament have already changed after wearing camouflage contact lenses. Although he still has an oriental face, no one can recognize him. In order to prevent Peter Parker and Marissa Tomei from being noticed, Su Chen picked it up and asked, "I'll take you back first." As he said that, Su Chen jumped up to the roof with a sudden jump. As Marissa Tomei screamed, "Start galloping among the tall buildings in the city." The Osborn father and son followed quickly on a hang glider. Soon Su Chen took the two of them to his sus-poison pet shop. Putting a shocked Marissa Tomei on the sofa, and placing Peter Parker next to her. This girl is actually cooking. Su Chen smelled the aroma of food. Moreover, it actually tastes like Eastern Chinese cuisine. This girl is quite sensible and started to learn how to make dongfang kai. "You're back, that lizard monster, Who are you?" As soon as Jessica, wearing an apron, walked out of the kitchen, she saw a strange man entering their store with a man and a woman. "It's me." Su Chen put away the camouflage contact lenses and restored her original appearance again. This startled Marissa Tomei, who was still in shock. But I was quickly attracted by Su Chen's handsome face. He is so handsome. Jessica breathed a sigh of relief when she saw it was Su Chen. Then he looked at Marissa Tomei and Peter Parker brought by Su Chen. Who are they? However, before Su Chen could answer, two figures flew in on hang gliders outside the door. Holy shit, Green Goblin. Two more. Jessica also read the news about the Green Goblin destroying the city, and was shocked when she saw these two figures. Then, get into a fighting stance. If it were before, she would definitely hide behind Su Chen immediately. However, now that she has gained extraordinary power, she has become bolder. No, don't misunderstand classmate Jessica, we are not bad people. Harry Osborn hurriedly lifted the mask off his face, revealing his face. Jessica was stunned for a moment when she saw this scene, and then shouted. "Harry Osborn, you are actually the Green Goblin. Watch me beat you up. Then send you to prison." Obviously, Jessica's character is very righteous, even if the other person is her classmate. You also have to pay the price for the mistakes you made. Quote. But he was blocked by Norman Osborn on the side and said, "Little girl, I did all those things. If you want to hit me, just hit me. Don't hit my son. Both of you are wearing Green Goblin's clothes. You are just collaborating together. See if I don't do justice to God." Jessica is ready to attack. Okay, they have become normal people. Su Chen stopped Jessica in a funny way. Then, how he cured Norman Osborn and how his son became another Green Goblin. As well as what he had just experienced, Marissa Tomei and Peter Parker were all told to Jessica why he brought him here. Only then did Jessica understand the situation. It turns out that they became your subordinates, and my classmates. One turned into a little green goblin, and one turned into a spider monster, oh my god. Jessica was obviously surprised by these things. After all, Harry Osborn and Peter Parker were both her classmates. Unexpectedly, after not seeing each other for such a short time, such a change would happen. However, it was a relief to think that she herself had gained extraordinary abilities. Then, do you plan to let her live here? Jessica pointed at Marissa Tomei and asked a little strangely. Su Chen nodded and said, their faces have been photographed by the media, and now their home must be surrounded by people. Even, someone has prepared a pistol and is ready to kill Peter Parker to do justice to God. Do you think we should let them go back? Sir, can I really not go home? At this time, Marissa Tomei on the side finally calmed down from the thrill just now and looked at Su Chen. If you want to go back and be beaten, then I won't stop you. Or, you can hide in a hotel. But it should be discovered soon. Su Chen returned in a deep voice. DB, Marissa Tomei didn't know what to say. Indeed, as Su Chen said, Peter is now a serious monster among the public. And as Peter's aunt, she will naturally be regarded as an accomplice. The location of their home must have been revealed now. Not only are the media waiting there must be many angry youths there who want to eliminate them. Going back would be tantamount to seeking death. But, there is only one room here. Jessica was immediately dissatisfied. This room belongs to her. Then you can just squeeze in. It's a double bed anyway. You're all skinny too. After looking at the two men, who were both very tall, Su Chen said casually. Then what should he do? After all, this is Su Chen's home. Although she doesn't want to share a bed with others, she still reluctantly agrees. However, Peter Parker probably won't have a place to live. We can't let him and Su Chen squeeze into the sofa. Moreover, who knows when this guy will turn into a big spider. Boss, Peter, please go to my house. There are many places in my house and this lady can go there too. It's absolutely safe. Harry Osborn hurriedly suggested. Norman Osborn also agreed. Yes, boss, I still have 2 empty villas there. I will give you the villa room certificate and key later, you can move there. Only then did Norman Osborn realize that he had forgotten to give his boss a villa. No, I have customized a sea view villa for Su Chen. Come to my place. At this moment, a somewhat lazy voice came over. Everyone turned around and saw a red and gold mecha slowly landing in the store. Hey, although I know that my charm is unparalleled, you don't have to look at me like this, right? The visor lifts up, revealing Tony Stark's stinky face. Tony Stark, you actually developed such technology. The Mark mecha has not yet been revealed to the world, so Norman Osborn and others naturally do not know about it. Tony Stark glanced at Su Chen, raised his lips slightly, and said, you have developed a large goblin suit, why can't I develop something more advanced? Tony Stark looked up and down the 2 green goblin suits and couldn't help but shake his head. Obviously, he has also known for a long time that Green Goblin is Norman Osborn. I was not surprised when I saw the other party dressed like this. This made Norman Osborn, who was very proud of his scientific research results, furious. You're so arrogant, give me some time, my Green Goblin suit will definitely surpass that of a piece of metal like you. Their Osborn Industries was once a world-class enterprise. At that time, Tony Stark was still picking up girls in college. Goblin, your whole family are goblins. At this time, Tony Stark also became more energetic, and his expression became extremely contemptuous. Hey, even if you discover the Ark's reaction device, so what, I'll give you 5,000 years to chase it. Okay, Su Chen was too lazy to listen to their nonsense. He looked at Tony Stark and asked, what are you doing here? The 10 rings are destroyed. Then definitely, I don't like to brag. Tony Stark glanced at Norman Osborn specifically when he said this. I just didn't expect you to take over Osborn Industries so quickly. It seems that some guys are more powerful than others. With Tony Stark's look like this, Norman Osborn was so angry that he almost turned towards that hateful face, and slowly touched the flying darts on his waist with his palms. Okay, Su Chen stopped this guy from continuing to speak. It is estimated that except for myself, few people can deal with this guy's mouth. He looked at the Osborns and his son and said, Take him back, remember, the hang glider flies higher. Yes, boss. Boss, a new batch of potions will be produced soon, and you will not be invited to perform magic by then. After the Osborns finished speaking, they were ready to leave with Peter Parker. No, he wants to come with us. At this moment, a burly man walked into Su Chen's shop with arrogant steps. The man was wearing a special combat uniform, holding a pistol and pointing it at everyone in the room. Behind him was a group of armed men with automatic rifles. Except for him, all of you have to go back with us. You illegally manufacture weapons of mass destruction and establish illegal mass gathering organizations. Moreover, you have been arrested for killing countless innocent people. As soon as the man came in, he kept talking for a long time. Everyone in the room was a little stunned, except Marissa Tomei, who was shocked. Others, including Su Chen, stared at the man quietly. The man was also stunned for a moment, and then his face turned extremely ugly. He understood the look in these people's eyes. That look was clearly like looking at an idiot. His expression became gritted, and he shouted to the team behind him. What are you doing standing still? Arrest them. Everyone in the team looked at each other in shock. Looking at the costumes of everyone in front of them, they were stunned for a moment. They saw Su Chen take action. However, before they took action, they felt their bodies being hit in the abdomen by huge amounts of force. Bang bang bang. In the man's stunned eyes, many members of the team were kicked out of the store. Hit the ground unconscious. Hey, rude guy, where are you looking? Before the man could react, he saw a girl appearing in front of him. Just as he was about to raise his pistol and shoot, his arm made a crisp sound, the bones broke, and he was hammered down. Then, I felt a huge amount of power concentrated in my abdomen. In an instant, the acid water was spit out. The body turned into a shrimp. Then, Jessica raised her leg again. Boom, the man was kicked to the ground. At the moment, a large human-shaped hole was made on the floor. Man, I don't know whether he will live or die. It looked as if the spine was broken. All this happened so fast that the man had no time to react, and he ended up in this miserable state. Gulu, Tony Stark, the Osborns, and Marissa Tomei all couldn't help but swallow their saliva. This girl who looks very thin is so violent. Here, Jessica, you also have extraordinary power. Jessica clapped her hands and said proudly, you can become a goblin, but I can't have super abilities. Harry Osborn's eyes almost popped out of his head. What's wrong with this world? People with super abilities are just like cabbage. But what about Goblin? This is the Green Goblin suit. Su Chen, your girlfriend is really scary. Tony Stark's expression on the side was even more exaggerated. It means, can you bear to have such a woman? Su Chen was too lazy to pay attention to this guy and asked Jessica to dig the man out of the hole. The palm of his hand was slightly stretched out, and white light covered the man's body. Everyone was stunned. Why did Su Chen rescue the enemy? Soon, the man regained consciousness. He opened his eyes with difficulty and was shocked to see a group of people looking at him condescendingly. He wanted to find a pistol, but he couldn't move at all because of the severe pain in his body. Then, he yelled in horror, "You terrorists, let me go quickly, otherwise our organization will not let you go." Su Chen only awakened the other party's consciousness and did not treat his injuries. Seeing the men in this state, Tony Stark couldn't help but say, although I don't want to do anything casually, I really want to break this guy's teeth. Obviously, Tony hates this kind of person who is ignorant of current affairs and has a bad mouth. It's up to me, I can cut off his limbs. At this time, Norman Osborn on the side also spoke with a cold face. I don't know when I took out a handful of main leaf flying darts. No, there's a fifth limb. Little Green Goblin Harry Osborn is also eager to try. No need, I'll do it. As soon as they finished speaking, Jessica on the side couldn't wait any longer. So, he picked up the ornament on the side and slammed it on the man's chin. With the collision of metal, all the man's teeth were broken. Including the mouth, everything is in tatters. Hiss. Everyone who saw this scene took a breath of air. This girl must not be offended in the future. It's so violent. When Marissa Tomei saw such a bloody scene, she was so frightened that she quickly covered her eyes. But he couldn't help but let go of a gap. Ooh. Only then did the man finally realize that he was afraid. The pain was caused by snot and tears mixed with blood. Su Chen ignored the bloody look and spoke slowly, Hydra, Crossbones. Crossbones, who was in agony, immediately became even more frightened when he heard this. That look was like seeing a devil. I whined and wanted to speak, but couldn't. Su Chen sneered and said, "Are you curious about how I know? Then let me tell you, I know more things than you think." No one present doubted this. Including Marissa Tomei also deeply recognized it. After all, this young man is so amazing. Hydra. Wasn't it stopped by the villain who appeared in the last century? Wasn't it already destroyed by the captain of the United States? Hearing Su Chen's words, Tony Stark thought about it. As the son of Howard Stark, the founder of S.H.I.E.L.D., he naturally knows many secrets. He had heard his father say this when he was a child. Those people should have been eliminated by Captain America, but Su Chen actually said that this guy was from Hydra. Thinking of Su Chen's ability, Tony's eyes narrowed. Hydra has not been destroyed yet. Not bad. Su Chen knew, and Tony also understood. Hydra not only does not exist anymore, but it is even more arrogant than before. Now S.H.I.E.L.D. has been soaked with them and is riddled with holes. It's almost becoming Snake and S.H.I.E.L.D. Hydra, what is it? Jessica couldn't help but ask. On the side, the Osborn father and son, and Marissa Tomei also looked at Su Chen curiously. Obviously, they also want to know what kind of organization this is. They are an organization belonging to the Nazis in the last century, and their purpose is to unify the world by force. The former Captain America was trying to fight against them, but in the end he also lost his whereabouts. However, they did not disappear completely, but left a remnant behind. Now it has been rebuilt again, and they are hiding in an organization called S.H.I.E.L.D. At the moment, hearing Su Chen tell these things in detail, I was so frightened that I felt like I had seen a ghost. My body started to tremble. After listening to Su Chen's words, everyone seemed to have heard a conspiracy of huge amounts. They all fell silent. Tony Stark also gave Crossbones a cold look. I heard from my father that they have done many dark things, including cruel human experiments. These guys have no bottom line at all for their goals. Su Chen's expression returned to calm. It seems that Nick Fury also seemed to have noticed something at this time. After Alexander Pierce wanted to deal with him, he immediately sent Natasha Romanoff to remind him. Obviously, they guessed that the other party had bad intentions. Crossbones has just confirmed this by accusing them of numerous crimes. Su Jing glanced at the door and remained calm. He felt that what Nick Fury did was a bit unnecessary. People like Crossbones have no brains. Knowing that he has super ability, he still resists so openly. Could it be that Hydra did this on purpose to test him first? Su Chen also doesn't understand the brain circuits of these guys. Turns out to be worse than a bunch of beasts. I want to kill him. Ever since Jessica gradually became relieved after killing that garbage purple man, her mentality has changed. I feel that these fools who harm people should go to hell. And she is doing justice for heaven. Wait a moment. Just as Jessica was about to smash the opponent's head, 4 figures rushed in from outside the door. 2 men and 2 women. One of the men's hair was a little thin, and he looked like a Mediterranean man. The other carried a compound bow and some special metal arrows on his back. Su Chen recognized at a glance that the man from the Mediterranean was Phil Coulson. The foot that carries the bow and arrow is Clint Barton, also known as Hawkeye. As for the other 2 women, one is Black Widow Natasha Romanoff, whom I have met several times. Another tall and capable woman with a ponytail who does not belong to Natasha Romanoff except for a certain figure and appearance should be Maria Hill. Su Chen was a little surprised. S.H.I.E.L.D. only has a few elite agents, and they all came. Are you with him? Seeing these people dressed up similar to Crossbones on the ground, Tony Stark, Jessica, and the Osborns, expressions changed slightly and they adopted fighting postures. Su Chen smiled slightly and finally showed up. No, don't get me wrong, we are not here to help him, we just want to help Mr. Su Chen. Phil Coulson with Mediterranean hair quickly waved his hand and explained. It turned out that after hearing that Alexander Pierce was going to deal with Su Chen, their director Nick Fury. Just keep watching the other party's movements. Today, Crossbones' group was finally dispatched. Nick Fury immediately sent them all over, ready to help Su Shi. Unexpectedly, the girl named Jessica solved it in a few seconds. Their intelligence ability is still lagging behind, and this Jessica is actually a super ability person. Are you from S.H.I.E.L.D.? It seems that your director has also realized something. Tony Stark has a very flexible mind. Although I just learned the whole story, I noticed details that many people didn't notice. This also shows that what Su Chen said is true. Not only did Hydra secretly rise again, it even infiltrated their old rival's organization. Even if Tony Stark despises this rat-like behavior, he still has to sigh. The strategies of these guys are simply terrifying. After all, this person belongs to our S.H.I.E.L.D. Let us take him back and deal with him. Hawkeye glanced at the miserable-looking Crossbones, and the corners of his eyes twitched slightly. Su Chen is not only scary herself, but the people around her are also so strong. He really wants to suggest to director Nick Fury that he should stay away from Su Chen and his gang. Otherwise, I might end up in this miserable state at some point. Good old Phil Coulson also nodded hurriedly. Yes, this guy wants to arrest good people indiscriminately. We will not bend the law for personal gain, and we will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation. In this regard, Su Chen still looked calm. He doesn't care about this matter, it just depends on what Jessica and the others think. Su Chen, is what you just said true? How do you know this? The former was asked by Natasha Romanoff, and the latter was asked by Maria Hill. Only then did Phil Coulson and Hawkeye remember what they had just heard Su Chen say, and they both looked at Su Chen. They were outside just now and heard everything Su Chen said, which shocked their jaws. It's true that Hydra was destroyed by the captain of the United States in the last century. But there are still residual forces, and they have been riddled with holes in their shield. Is this true, or is Su Chen deliberately trying to scare them? Is it possible that people like Crossbones are spies arranged by Hydra to lurk in S.H.I.E.L.D.? In that case, their immediate boss, Alexander Pierce, is also from Hydra. The more I think about it, the more I realize this is nonsense. Pierce was a bit arbitrary in dealing with Su Chen. But the other party isn't from Hydra, right? However, they have learned about Su Chen. In fact, they have been secretly observing Su Chen these days. Although I also knew that Su Chen had discovered them long ago. But Su Chen seemed to ignore their intentions. So, I breathed a sigh of relief. Although I have not had direct contact with them, I know from their agent's intuition that Su Chen is definitely not the kind of person who talks nonsense. If this matter is really what Su Chen said, it will be a big event that is difficult to control. Su Chen knew what they were thinking. Now he is not afraid of being summoned by a certain boss if the plot is exposed. Only the other party doesn't need to use space magic. He, Su Chen, won't be afraid. Looking at the headsets on the four people's ears, Su Chen could already imagine Nick Fury's anxious face getting darker. Even if I say what I say is true and you don't believe it, I just said nonsense. Su Chen's words made the four agents fall into deep thought. Then, he almost raised his head and glanced at Su Chen. They looked at each other, and finally Black Widow Natasha Romanoff spoke. Su Chen, our director wants to speak to you, can you? Natasha Romanoff's tone was obviously a bit trying. Through their understanding of Su Chen, they also knew that Su Chen did not want to deal with them. Not even interested at all. If they offend the other party, they dare not think about the price they will pay. Su Chen nodded and said, bring it here. Natasha Romanoff hurriedly took 2 steps and handed the headset to Su Chen. Everyone also looked at Su Chen. They were also curious about what the S.H.I.E.L.D. director, who had been eroded into a hornet's nest, was going to say to Su Chen. Su Chen put the headset to her ear and said slowly, hello, black braised egg, if you fart, hurry up. Black braised eggs. Jessica and others were all shocked when they heard this title for the first time. There is someone with this name. But when he thought about the nickname that Su Chen might have given to the other party, he couldn't help but burst out laughing. Seeing this scene, the faces of Black Widow and others became extremely embarrassed. This Su Chen really has a personality. Phil Coulson waved his hand hurriedly and explained awkwardly, haha, Mr. Su Chen was joking. Our director is not called Black Braised Egg, but he looks a bit similar. No, he doesn't look alike either. Realizing that he was getting darker and darker, Phil Coulson couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat on his Mediterranean forehead. Phil Coulson, fine you 3 years' salary. Sure enough, when Phil Coulson was dancing and not knowing what to do, the voice of Nick Fury gnashing his teeth came from the headset. Well, listening to the voice in the headset, Phil Coulson shut up. Except for Tony Stark, who was still suppressing his laughter, no one else knew what was going on. In S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury's face turned as black as coal when he saw this scene. This Su Chen is really hateful. However, in order to understand what Su Chen just said, I had to hold back. He took a deep breath and said, Mr. Su Chen, the Hydra you just mentioned still exists. And, is it true that the thing that infiltrated my shield? Su Chen frowned slightly and said, Black braised eggs, I have already said it. Even if what I say is the truth, you don't believe it. That's just nonsense. Besides, if you're talking to me so blatantly, are you sure Hydra won't notice it? This old guy is really brave. Are you really not afraid that these words will be monitored by Hydra people? Don't worry, I check the office every day. There won't be any monitoring equipment. In addition, this route is a separate route between me and the 4 of them, and no one knows about it yet. Nick Fury thought that Su Chen was afraid of being entangled with Hydra, so he explained it solemnly. Su Chen didn't have time to listen to his nonsense, so he said, Okay, I don't have time to waste on you. Also, you tell Alexander Pierce that he messed with me this time. The Tesseract must be brought as compensation, otherwise, I will destroy him and his family. Su Chen is not a good person to begin with, and sometimes the bottom line of doing things can be lowered. As soon as these words came out, Nick Fury shuddered for some reason. On the screen, he saw Su Chen actually looking towards him. To be precise, it was looking at the tiny camera on Phil Coulson's chest. Had he long ago discovered that he was observing from behind? Seeing the other party's somewhat cold eyes, Phil Coulson was also startled. Subconsciously I felt my chest. This kind of deception directly betrayed oneself. Nick Fury also felt the screen go black. Phil Coulson, let go, you idiot, and you'll be fined 2 more years of salary. Although Nick Fury over there couldn't see this scene, he understood what happened and was so angry that he almost jumped up. Phil Coulson was also aggrieved. You must know that his agent level is higher than the current Natasha Romanoff, reaching level 9 agent. It is enough to show that his business ability is very strong. However, Nick Fury, who was not present at the scene, only felt the terrifying look in Su Chen's eyes. But he couldn't feel it at all. The terrifying aura emanating from Su Chen made his legs tremble uncontrollably. Others in the room also felt this terrifying momentum. The heart beat faster. While Osborn and his son were shocked, they both lamented the power of their boss. Jessica was also thinking, is this Su Chen's true power? Tony Stark put on his mask and looked much better. Marissa Tomei fainted. Definitely, this momentum mainly affected the 4 agents, as well as the Crossbones people on the ground who gradually became quiet. At the moment they felt like they were facing a big mountain. Although Natasha Romanoff has met Su Chen face to face twice, this is the first time she has experienced Su Chen's power in person. Hawkeye gritted his teeth and resisted from bending his legs. Coulson and Hill were already kneeling on the ground. Crossbones completely passed out. This power, this oppression. They experience how small they are. It was as if Su Chen could crush elite agents like them with one finger. Seeing the looks of Natasha Romanoff and others, Nick Fury also guessed something. I'm afraid, Su Chen released his power over there. Even if he didn't feel it, he could guess how terrifying this power was from the expressions of these men. However, he still maintained the calmness that belonged to the director. The most important thing now is that Su Chen actually knows about Tesseract. Even the Tesseract knows about their shield. No one knows about this except the high-level agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Even the original personnel of S.H.I.E.L.D. don't know. Su Chen actually knew. This shows that the other party's remarks about Snake Shield are very likely to be true. Definitely not trying to scare them. So, he lowered his stance again and said, Mr. Su Chen, Tesseract is too important. Please forgive me for not agreeing to this request. As for Pierce, I will investigate it carefully. If he really has a problem like you said, I'll take matters into my own hands. Quote, in fact, he already roughly believed what Su Chen said. It's just that the significance of Tesseract is too great. Although now on Pierce's side. Regardless of whether the other party is Hydra, this thing also belongs to S.H.I.E.L.D. If it really falls into the hands of outsiders, I don't know whether it will cause any harm. But, for them, it's definitely huge amounts of losses. It may even become an important item in the next technological explosion. Su Chen's face became even colder, and his aura began to shrink, all suppressing Natasha Romanoff and others. At this time, Natasha Romanoff and Hawkeye could no longer hold on and knelt on the ground. Maria Hill and Phil Coulson even lay on the floor. Su Chen stopped talking nonsense and spoke coldly. Black Braised Egg, please correct your attitude. I am informing you, not discussing with you. That thing is not something you, Zhao Zhao, can master, leaving it to me is the wisest choice. No, Mr. Su Chen, if you insist on taking the Tesseract, then we, S.H.I.E.L.D., will fight you even if we strive to destroy you. Su Chen took one black braised egg in one mouthful, which made Nick Fury look extremely ugly. However, his heart couldn't help but beat wildly. Nick Fury can't get here because Phil Coulson is already lying on the floor. But as the king of agents, I can guess what happened. He knew that his men might have been subdued by Su Chen's power. This time, they finally let him know that Su Chen is more terrifying than they imagined. The other person may not turn into a bad guy who does all kinds of evil. However, for their own purposes, the other party can also change the bottom line. Such people are truly terrifying. Even far scarier than those monsters who kill without blinking an eye. After hearing the other party's answer, Su Chen raised the corners of his mouth slightly and looked at Natasha Romanoff and others. In the end, Su Chen stared at several people for a full minute. Until the four people's bones were creaking. Su Chen lost his momentum. Natasha Romanoff and the four of them felt that the mountain on their bodies had finally disappeared. Regardless of the fact that Crossbones was still bleeding, he was lying on the floor breathing heavily. Just now they felt as if they had escaped from the gate of hell. Really, if Su Chen applies more pressure, their bones may break. Su Chen looked calm and didn't look at anyone. The pressure of the Gu King realm is simply beyond what they can bear. So, Su Chen slowly said, okay, 1 week, Tesseract gives me 1 week. Otherwise, I don't mind including you S.H.I.E.L.D. and those Hydra fools. As soon as Su Chen's words came out, there was silence for a few seconds, and then a voice came out, 3 days. 5 days. Good. Also, don't worry about the people around me. Including Ghost Spider-Man. Su Chen reminded coldly. Jessica, Gwen, Osborn and his son are all his own, and he doesn't want Black Braised Egg to get involved. Over there, he obviously took a deep breath and said, okay, I won't provoke you. But Tony Stark is a descendant of our founders of S.H.I.E.L.D. Casual. Su Chen had no intention of asking the other party to get the Tesseract from the beginning. America's top management attaches great importance to this matter. Even Nick Fury cannot make the decision based on his power. Moreover, the Tesseract will play a role in promoting the plot. I don't want to interfere too much. Just to see if I can analyze it. If it can be parsed, gain space power, then his strength will be greatly improved again. Even if a bald boss comes, I'm not afraid. 5 days was enough time for him to study. Natasha Romanoff and the four recruited a team of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Take away Crossbones and the agents who were beaten to death by Jessica. Black Braised Egg also promised that someone would deliver the Tesseract soon. So, this episode is finally over. Okay, I have prepared a villa for you there. Don't worry, it will definitely be better than some people's. Tony Stark breathed a sigh of relief and lifted his visor again. These words made Norman Osborn almost touch flying darts again. Who are you looking down on? What a great use of money. Su Chen was not polite, looked at Jessica and Marissa Tomei, and said, you guys go over, I still want to look at the store. This store was given by the system, and he couldn't throw it away at any cost. This is also a way to earn rewards. If you lose it, you will lose an opportunity to collect the wool of the system. However, you can let Jessica and the two live somewhere, which can be regarded as showing you a house. See, can I take care of Peter? As soon as Su Chen finished speaking, Marissa Tomei hurriedly asked. Looking at Marissa Tomei with a pleading look on her face, Su Chen was about to agree. Harry Osborn on the side said, don't worry, Aunt May, I will take good care of Peter. Although he may have retained some sanity after turning into a monster, there is no guarantee. It's safest for you to stay here with the boss. Norman Osborn nodded equally. Yes, ma'am, you are safe with the boss. Then, okay. Marissa Tomei glanced at Peter Parker, obviously still a little worried. Sue Chen also thought about it for a while and said, okay, you and Jessica will both work here as my clerks. A monthly salary of 30,000 yuan, food and housing. At this time, Marissa Tomei's eyes lit up. Really? Is this too high? Make a deal. As soon as she finished speaking, Jessica on the side quickly agreed as if she was afraid that Sue Chen would regret it. The corners of Sue Chen's mouth raised slightly. It seems that Jessica has thought so for a long time. However, having a clerk help him with his work also gave him a lot of time to do other things. A monthly salary of $60,000 is just a drop in the bucket for him now. Thank you, thank you. Marissa Tomei looked at Sue Chen's handsome face, lowered her head and thanked her. Sue Chen nodded similarly, and then glanced at the Osborns. After the two understood it, they prepared to leave on a hang glider with Peter Parker, who was still in a coma. At this time, Tony Stark on the side gave an unprecedented reminder. Hey, be careful of the military satellites. I just experienced a life and death crisis. Osborn was slightly startled. He actually didn't think about it. After looking at the scorch marks on Tony Stark's armor that were obviously caused by bomb explosions, he couldn't help but twitch at the corner of his eye. Yes, he actually forgot about it. So, Norman Osborn did not quarrel with Tony Stark this time. I thanked you very seriously, thank you. The two left with Peter Parker, deliberately increasing the height of the flight and increasing the speed of the flight. Sue Chen had long noticed the marks on Tony Stark's mecha. I also guessed that it was left behind from the battle with 10 rings. Likewise, there are traces of those explosions, which were obviously discovered by the military. However, what surprised Sue Chen was that there were very few traces on the Mark III. This shows that Tony Stark got out of trouble very quickly. This guy seems a little different. Okay, it's time for me to go back. This time I will upgrade the Mark III so that he can wear it at any time. The current Mark III also requires a robotic arm to wear. You can easily put on and take off the mecha before you reach the back. Tony Stark is obviously not satisfied with this. Aren't you very interested in buying a poisonous pet? I basically gave all my money to Norman Osborn, and I spent almost all of it. A big customer like Tony Stark cannot be let go. No, I don't want to be taken advantage of. Sue Chen made it clear to the hospital last time that he would be given 100 times the price. He, Tony Stark, didn't want to be tricked. In the end, Tony Stark bought 3 colorful venomous snakes for 30 million. That expression is no different from eating shit. Sue Chen is a little funny, this guy also shows this expression sometimes. Ding, the host has sold 30 million yuan, and the reward is 300 yuan of energy blocks, a wine bug. A bottle of bitter wine. Actually rewarded another GU worm. Haha, great, now I can finally synthesize the original wine bug into the second stage. However, the wine bug in the second stage of synthesis is called the 4-flavored wine bug. In addition to 2 wine worms, you also need 4 flavors of sweet, sour, bitter and spicy wine. He now has 2 GU worms and a bitter wine. Still missing the sweet, sour and spicy 3-flavor wine. These 3 flavors of wine can be purchased in the system shopping mall. But the price is too expensive. Any kind of wine costs 500 million. The little money I just earned is just drizzle. It's so dark. Sue Chen had to lament the black heart of the system again. I don't know if this kind of wine exists in reality. Looking at Tony's stinky face, he couldn't help but said, okay, don't be dissatisfied, you guy. If it weren't for that mosquito. It is impossible for your physical fitness to become stronger than that of a special soldier. That means you can't fly the mecha more easily and get rid of the military's fighter jets in the shortest time. Sue Chen knew that the reason why Tony's Mark III didn't have many traces was obviously because he could control the Mark III better. What drives all this is better physical fitness. Tony Stark snorted coldly, and just as he was about to exchange a few words with Sue Chen, the voice of Jarvis came over. Sir, Miss Potts is calling. Catch. Tony Stark answered the phone without any hesitation. Tony, Obadiah escaped from prison. What? After hearing what the other party said, Tony Stark's expression changed drastically. This guy was about to be executed, and he actually ran away. It's not right, it's absolutely not right that he has such great ability. However, before he could react from the surprise, Jarvis's voice came out again. Boss, your defense system was forcibly destroyed. It was Obadiah. He took away some of your research data. Gift crab. Upon hearing this, Tony Stark immediately cursed. Obadiah was so bold that after escaping from prison, he went to him. His own defense system was re-established after Obadiah was captured. I didn't expect this guy to be so bold and direct destruction. This was definitely not something he could do as a prisoner who had just taken out the weapon. In other words, someone helped him escape from prison, destroyed his defense system, and entered the underground research room to steal research data. I'm going back first. This time, I won't let this guy go. Tony Stark now regrets very much that he did not use the relationship to let Obadiah be executed earlier. Otherwise this situation would not have happened. Those experimental data are all research data of Mark Armor and Arc Reactor. If it is obtained by someone with evil intentions, it will definitely be a disaster. Watching Tony Stark leave in a hurry, Su Chen was equally surprised. Even though Obadiah was like this, he was still able to escape. Moreover, he destroyed Tony's defense system and stole the research data. This shows that Iron Overlord is likely to be born again. Holy crap, the plot of this world seems to be repairing itself. Or is it the bald guy who took action? Su Chen thought of the current Sorcerer Supreme, Ancient One. You guessed wrong. It wasn't me. However, since you interfered with the timeline like this, I have to talk to you. Su Chen had just finished his thoughts when a spark portal suddenly appeared in the store. A bald woman wearing a yellow robe walked out. At the moment, he actually nodded towards Su Chen, Jessica, and Marissa Tomei with a smile on his face. How could Jessica and I have seen such a scene? My mouth is almost touching the ground. Could this be magic? Su Chen stretched out his hand to close the two women's mouths, and smiled back, saying, Ancient One Magician, you finally came to me. Su Chen knew that the moment he appeared in this world, he had already been noticed by the big guys in this world. It's just that this world is a mess. This happens too often. Like Eternity, the Court of Life, the First Firmament, or even OAA, Oba will definitely be able to notice. However, I may not even be considered an ant in their eyes. Anyway, the timeline here has no logic, and it can be restarted even if it explodes. I don't even bother to care about myself. However, as the patron saint of the earth, he will definitely not sit back and ignore it all the time. This time, I am afraid that he exposed Hydra in advance and asked for the Tesseract. The Ancient One then appeared. No, I didn't meet you because you told me something about the future in advance, I just wanted to invite you over as a guest. Ancient One still looked at Su Chen with a smile, as if he had seen through the other person completely. Ancient One Magician, it's very rude of you to use mind-reading skills casually. These magicians are indeed very dirty, reading other people's thoughts so openly. Okay, I apologize to you, and I promise that I won't use mind-reading magic when I get along with you in the future. How about you, do you want to be a guest at Kamar Taj? The Ancient One felt that Su Chen was very dissatisfied, so he quickly withdrew his mind-reading magic and stopped irritating Su Chen. Okay, I have been in this world for so long, and I have never seen what Kamar Taj looks like. Besides, he also wanted to see how those magicians practiced. If you can learn something, then take it. So, looking at the two girls who were still wide-eyed, he handed the 30 million card to Jessica and said, Jessica, the money on this card will be divided between the two of you. Just treat it as your salary, food and accommodation. I won't have to bother to pay you wages in the future. Take a good look at the store and remember, the cheapest poisonous pet cannot be less than 100,000. After saying that, he followed Ancient One and entered the light gate. The light door quickly disappeared. Only then did the second daughter Jessica react, Hey Su Chen, this is too much. 15 million per person, they must have given Soda 500 years of work to earn so much money. Marissa Tomei on the side was also startled. In 30 years of living, this was the first time she had seen so much money. Moreover, the money was still given to her. This boss doesn't care about money so much. The shock of this incident even offset the Ancient One's use of light gate magic just now. After Su Chen entered the light gate, he found himself outside an ancient building. Kamar Taj is indeed built in the Himalayas. Kamar Taj looks much bigger than in the movie. The surrounding area is covered by a magic barrier, and the temperature is suitable for human survival. Compared with the ice and snow outside the barrier, it is like two different worlds. However, the space within the barrier is indeed like a small world. In addition to the 10-story ancient-style wooden building in the center and numerous wooden bungalows, surrounded by flowers, trees, and springs, there are also many strange animals running on the plains full of flowers and plants. Here, it really looks like the magical world on TV that I watched in my previous life. The wooden door engraved with special runes opened by itself, and the Ancient One magician made a gesture of invitation. Su Chen was not polite, nodded, and entered the gate. Suddenly a light flashed in front of his eyes, and he could clearly see the scene in front of him. The square of several thousand square meters is filled with magicians in gray robes. They have different shapes and practice different magic techniques. Su Chen glanced at the Ancient One magician who was walking shoulder to shoulder with him, and asked, "There are so many magicians in Kamar Taj." Ancient One glanced at Su Chen with a smile, shook his head and said, "Many of these people are just trainee magicians. If you cannot learn elementary level magic within a month, you will be sent back to the real world." Hearing this, Su Chen was slightly stunned. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.